With the pack, so I've got to imagine that. Oh wait, they're saying it right now.
The names Intimidator and Daytona go hand in hand, but the Major Series marries them together almost perfectly this weekend. We pay homage tonight to a bygone era of stock car racing and the late great Dale Earnhardt with this second event of the 2025 Major Series calendar, putting 1987 NASCAR stock cars on Daytona's high banks. Welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV with Scott Shive alongside, and it's a pleasure to join you for coverage of the 2025 Major Series. Today's coverage from Daytona is brought to you by the Major Series, by Major's Garage, and by Whiplash Sim Cams. Scott, this is the Intimidator, the second round of 12 this season that are 4 points, 13 total for the year. This is the big, great speedway race of the season to kick things off, and it's kind of piggybacking off of the Daytona 2.4 a few weeks ago, but in that whole kickoff spirit still here, it's mirroring the Daytona 500 that is happening right now. Of course, we're not going to give any spoilers to that. If you know what's happening, awesome. If you're watching it, great. But we have got our focus set on the 1987 style NASCAR Cup cars here this evening for the Intimidator and this great World Center of Racing.
Yeah, the World Center of Racing it is. Everybody knows and loves it. This 2.5-mile super speedway, high banks, fast track, as we know, opened in 1959. Huge capacity in this place, one of the staples here in Daytona Beach. And you know, everyone knows it all started out on the beach and they raced in the sand, and then in 1959, the speedway was built, and then it was slated in concrete and asphalt forever that this place would forever be known as the World Center of Racing and the home of stock car racing. We obviously got to see the Daytona 2.4 a month ago in the IMSA classes, and it was great, but we're here on the oval tonight in the 1987s for, you gotta say it like, the Intimidator. I think when I hear it, I think that's how I hear it, so I like to say it that way. But we're here with the 1987s, a car that you mentioned it. It's a homage to a lost art of racing that we had so long ago, and that we sometimes wish we could have back now. You know, new styles are great, but old styles, everybody has their niches that they know and love, and so we got some great stuff to come here tonight. 200 laps, and of course we'll have the GT World Challenge here in a month from today on March 16th, and then of course we get to the World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is one of the coolest things, Andrew, because I talked to you about this when we were at the Daytona 2.4. I just love this series. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, you get all styles of racing, just about everything but dirt this season. There have been dirt events in the past, but this season, not touching the dirt just quite yet. Maybe 2026, we'll see. But yes, everything else, every other discipline you could think of is here included in this 2025 Major Series schedule, and we're very proud to be a part of it. Let's take a look at the driver standings coming into this evening. Robert Nash, Vincent Laherbier, and Nathan Dowd tied up top of the board, all with 229 points each. Of course, they all had class wins, so they're each credited with a win, even though it's only been one race. So you see where everybody else kind of sorts out from there with all of their class points. And Dallas Pataska, Dalton Fredericks, Austin Milwain all tied for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tom Abramitis, Joey Haynes, Brian Bennett all tied for 7th, 8th, and 9th. So on and so forth through your top 24, including Dino Vela, Dick Mueller, and Brenton Foster down on the bottom end of that top 24 and 90 points back. And this is going to shake up a lot after this round, of course, but this is a little snippet of what's going on in the driver standings coming into the Americas region for this event. And of course, this is the Americas region. 2 races have already transpired, the international and European splits. This is the Americas split. Just in case you're new to the Major Series, there are those 3 regions, those 3 splits, time slots, if you will, for these events. There's 3 different splits of this exact Americas region race. Now that the confusing part might be out of the way, let's get down to the grid. We've got Kyle Hendricks on pole, and we'll get down momentarily anyways to the grid. Give me one moment. We're a little bit behind. This is a very fast pre-race to have happening. There we go. We'll get down to the grid finally, brought to you by Lucky Performance with Kyle Hendricks on pole, Robert Northway from 2nd. These 2 have been staples of this race this weekend. It'll be a lot of fun to watch here this evening. Starting 3rd is Dallas Pataska. Starting 4th, Talon Smith. Starting 5th, Jason Wallet. He just got his power back, is able to make the race. Christian Challenger from the 6th position. Starting 7th, Austin Peterson. Starting 8th, Robert Nash. 9th and 10th, Brian McGreevy and Brenton Foster.
And then back there in 11th and 12th, it'll be Ray Patridge and Austin O'Neill. 13th and 14th will be Jason Lottridge and Timothy Klaus. 15th and 16th here in your 8th row will be William Fletcher and last race's winner, one of the 3 of them, Nathan Dowd. Then 17th and 18th, it will be Tom Abromaitis and Christian Abate. And rounding out your top 20, 19th and 20th will be Ross Banfield and Drew Lalonde.
Starting from 21st, you'll find Kevin Hill in the 52 car, Brian Barnes from 22nd spot, Chris Willard from 23rd, Joseph Homan from 24th. Back in 25th, you'll find Nick Kuhn in the 19 car, Joey Haynes from the 26th position. Starting 27th, Ryan Steele, 28th, Greg McEnany, I think is how you say that, Ozzie Milwayne from 29th, and Lynn Kinchlow from the 30th position. We'll go through the back end. Lionel Callisto, we saw Vincent LaHerbier, who is starting this race from the top of the points, then James C. Jones and Bryce Roberts, your 34-car field. Let's quickly touch on your Whiplash SimCam's race details. This is a 200-lap race, no stages, just a straight-up 500-miler. Unlimited tires, 100% fuel, open setup, one fast fix, no green-white checkers are available, meaning this race can end under caution. And there's one graphic we won't need, so we'll show it now. The overtime rules brought to you by Lucky Performance. We won't need this at all. That is out the window. Forget about it. I never even showed it, right? So it's just that it's out the window. We're not using that tonight. Well, thanks for joining us. This is going to be a party for sure down in Daytona Beach. Here comes Kyle Hendricks into the Geico restart zone to kick things off into that blue zone of power. Green flag is in the air. A problem for Northway on the start, couldn't make it to the start-finish line under power. Something happened to Northway, he might be rejoining us, but the field works down the Daytona Super Stretch for the first time. 2x2x2x2. It's going to be one of the few times you see him this organized.
Yeah, Hendricks there in the Ford Thunderbird out front. You'll see a lot of these cars with some throwback schemes this weekend as we've got them in those 87s. Hendricks already trying to block the lane. Talon Smith moving up from his fourth position all the way from the outside, really on the bumper. And one thing that we won't see as much tonight is those cars locked bumpers like we saw just a moment ago from Smith and Hendricks, because we talked about these cars are definitely different from the Gen 7s that we have now. They don't draft quite the same, Andrew.
No, they don't. They draft entirely differently. Of course, that big pocket of air still is in effect, and you get a big run and whatnot, but you won't see these guys lock bumpers. You won't see these guys do much bump drafting. You might give a shot or two down a straightaway, and that's about it. Just a little boost here, a little boost there, and that's all you'll need. But it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys come to grips with these race cars. A lot of these drivers have already run one or another session throughout the weekend, so they've got a little bit of practice, but there's also a lot of these guys rushing straight into this race for the first time this weekend. Not many laps under their belt. Of course, they have to make the minimum 50 in practice, but maybe that's all they could do this week. So there might be some guys that have run a few thousand miles. There might be some guys that are just running on empty as far as getting practice in for this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. This is a place where you definitely need practice, but the good news is for a lot of those drivers that have not practiced, you've got really 150 laps to try to practice. It's like they say, you can't win it in the first 150, but you can definitely lose it. And so a lot of drivers will try to go easy here in the early waning stages of this race. Most of these drivers almost single-filed out here. Again, long race tonight, and so no one being crazy aggressive at this moment. We look back on the front bumper of Christian Schellner in that number one in that fifth position, right on the back of Jason Wallet. And so they ride just about single file. And I got to say, I'm going to mention it probably all night long. They've got some cool paint schemes, and Christian has definitely a cool one in that number one.
Yes, he does. That is a really cool throwback. I want to say to, is that going to be Alan Kulwicki?
I don't know.
I want to say that's a throwback to the Xerox number 7 for Alan Kulwicki. There were a few very similar Xerox cars. Maybe, yeah, I want to say that's a Xerox machine. Regardless, I'm sure I'll be corrected down there in the chat at some point, but he's very fun to watch. And this is somebody that you might find in your AI groups, your AI sessions, if you run AI races at all on the iRacing.com sim. Of course, Christian Challenger, an employee at iRacing. Very cool to see that he is in this event. But Dallas Pataska, somebody we see on Thursday nights with the Sarah Super Series, getting passed up by that number 1. He is getting eaten up chewed up, spit out on that outside line as these guys go by on the bottom.
Yeah, he's definitely going to fall back here just a little bit, and he was going to have help on that outside from the 11 of Brenton Foster, but he moves down to the bottom line. So Dallas Pataska out and alone is the 456. Excuse me, yeah, 50. Wow, that's a long number. 546 of Herbier has a bit of a problem there.
Yeah, something happened there on the front straightaway into turn number 1. We'll go back and see what happened maybe through the tri-oval for the Herbier. We'll ride on board. This is such a cool shot. You see that they got the hands up on top of the wheel instead of down on the sides. And yeah, I got up into the wall at a turn 4, and that's going to be a penalty unless race control is feeling nice today and clears that for the Herbier. That's likely going to be that's going to be 2 penalties: speeding in the pit lane and unsafe pit exit.
Yeah, we'll talk about it here tonight. We'll have lucky break of the race, but I think that might have been one of those unlucky breaks of the race. Gets out to the outside wall there, snaps loose. And that's one of those things about these 87s. You said it to me, Andrew. They drive almost like they're boats. And so when you get like that, it is so difficult to keep it in a straight line. These things are on edge even more than a lot of the cars that we see. You'll see a little replay of La Herbier. Driver hailing from Canada, yes, definitely going to be speeding in the pit lane, an unsafe entry there. Hopefully race control might clear that for him. We'll have to keep you up to date on that. But unlucky break, looks like he will be serving that penalty.
Yeah, I think because that wasn't in avoidance of a crash, that was just a mistake on his own, that's going to be one that he has to serve, and that's unfortunate, but that the rules are the rules, unfortunately. And here's a look at Robert Northway, somebody who has been up front a lot this weekend, had a part in that fantastic finish in the European region. You caught that on GSRC earlier today. That was a really cool finish between Kyle Hendricks and eventual race winner, going to find the name again, Trevor Vavrovsky. Jesper Eriksson finished 3rd. I believe Northway finished 4th in that race. So he also finished 2nd in the international split. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch in this race if he gets a chance to catch back up. And that is, in fact, for sure, an Alan Kulwicki throwback because he's got Underbird on the front instead of Thunderbird.
Man, look at that. I think the iRacing's having a little bit of a glitch there because that tire is definitely not on the ground on that right front. And so I think he'd have a huge problem if the car was actually driving like that. But yeah, he's going to have to hope for a caution to either save him from going a lap down here.
Whoa, one car
first
around.
car, and look.
Jason Wallet.
Yep. I don't know if that's going to bring out our caution, but he's sliding sideways on the exit of turn number 4. We stay green right now, but Wallet was running up in the top 5. Got shuffled out just there a moment ago, and I imagine, Andrew, he was trying to get down to the bottom, and the speed differential was too great and got turned around from someone behind.
He'll drop all the way to 32nd position now, one of 3 cars not with the main group, and we'll get a look back at what just occurred for Jason Wallet in that 589. Here's a look back at it. Was racing with Dallas Pataska in the 24, and as they come off of turn number 4, does Pataska get into the back of that car, or does he just get free on his own? He got free all on his lonesome. When we saw that, go back to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race a few nights ago. We saw 3 trucks.
Yep.
3 trucks lose it in that same spot in the same way. Just get loose out of turn 4. Something about that corner and maybe catching the wind in a certain way just brings the car around.
You took away my point. That's exactly what I was going to say. If you got to watch the Craftsman truck race, we saw 3 trucks just go right around on the exit of turn number 4. The car just gets so light, and they mentioned that over the years a bump has developed there, as we'll see here Robert Northway go a lap down in that number 46 throwback machine. So
and he got the wall.
Hope for a caution. A little bit in the wall there. He might try to file in line here and get in the draft so he can ride with the rest of this pack. But like I was saying about turn 4, it's just the car gets so light when you're going from 33 degrees of banking all the way to about 5 or 7 or so on the beginning of the front straightaway. It's just so easy for the car to get light, and if you just have too much throttle in it, you're going to go around. A lot of drivers like to lift off to maybe 80% around that area sometimes, because if you hammer down like you always do, sometimes you might catch it the wrong way and go around just like Jason Wallet did.
Changing gears, Northway is going to get in line here behind Dallas Pataska. Pataska runs in the 7th spot, so this is inside the top 10. In line for Northway, he would be the first driver to get a wave by. And should these guys catch up to Jason Wallet before we get a caution and put Wallet a lap down, all he has to do is race that 589 for that position as the first car 1 lap down. Vincent Laherbier is 3 laps down after his penalty. He spent a while in the pit lane, just about 2 minutes total down there for his lane time. But as these guys work on, I want to give a shout out to those who help us here at Pit Stop TV quickly. Whiplash Simcams, ATVO, CC's Business, Cody Williams Design, Lucky Performance, and we've got a crash for the lead. Oh no, a blowover!
Oh my gosh, huge problems up in the front. That will bring out your first caution. But oh my goodness, big problems for Talon Smith. He goes up and over probably more than 20 times.
Kyle Hendricks involved in this. Talon Smith, the other big name out of this in the 658, and he is smoking, headed down to the inside of the racetrack.
That's going to need a fast repair.
Lucky for him, these guys have one. So first caution of the night, and it's a big one.
Yeah, huge incident there for these drivers out on track.
This is going to have some pretty big implications throughout the course of the day. This is going to cycle these guys out to the back of the field and without a fast repair. I believe even Hendricks might have to use one. Hendricks just got free out of 4, and Talon Smith threw it in the wall to try and avoid, went up and over, and you counted it something around 20 times?
Yeah, maybe a little bit under that, but look at his car bounce around there on all 4 wheels, just back from wheel to wheel to wheel. But I think Talon Smith was on the rear bumper of Hendricks when that incident happened, so I think Hendricks might have started to get free, but I think there was definitely some contact.
So problems there. And cars will come into the pit lane here and take service. Talon Smith, of course, one of them. Everybody going to come in for service here. This is a big-time stop for a lot of these drivers. Come in and get service now and make sure you've got tires in the car, fuel in the car to go the next distance.
Well, and we spoke about the fuel earlier in our race analysis, and we mentioned, you know, it was about 100% fuel, but it'll give these drivers about under 35 laps or so in this pit area, so that they'll be able to make about 35 laps, just shy of that, on a tank of fuel. And so we'll see a lot of pit stops here today, but so not surprised to see all of these drivers come in at lap number 15, about halfway through a tank of gas.
And while we work on a couple of things in the back end, you can see that pink machine of Talon Smith has taken a fast repair. We'll be right back in just a moment. We'll go Pit Stop TV side by side. I'll be right back to you with more racing on the way. Welcome back to the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Dallas Pataska will have the lead out of the pit lane. And that's going to put Ryan Steele on his outside, Nathan Dowd in third, Tom Abramitis in fourth, and Ray Partridge in the fifth spot. That was a very exciting way to get the day started as far as cautions go. First caution of the evening.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a moment there is a little bit a lot. That will relegate some of these drivers a little bit farther back. Talon Smith, like we mentioned, took his fast repair in that number 658. He'll line up 15th here on this restart, and like we said, Pataska will be out front. But man, a lot of these drivers up in the top 10, gaining a lot of positions through that pit stop. You got Ryan Steele starting on the outside of the front row, 25 spots gained. You see a lot of these drivers lining up here single file, whether they had to serve a penalty, get the lead back on the lead lap, like we look along here with Robert Norway. That was a caution that he needed.
Dare I say this is an early Lucky Break of the Day nominee?
At one of them for sure. Let's make a note of it because he is definitely one.
Yeah, I would say this files into that category, him getting this caution at the right time to get that lap back. And even Jason Wallet, I think, could use it as one of his Lucky Break of the Day nominees potentially, because he is able to stay on the lead lap in this race and will continue on. Here we go, back down to the Geico restart zone, something they didn't have back in 1987, but we do have now. Green flag back in the air. Down the Daytona Super Stretch, Pataska, Dowd, Abramitis, your top three. Steele falls back to fourth. Christian Abate in the fifth position. Ray Partridge sixth. That's how they work out this opening lap back from caution flag.
A lot of them trying to get single file, trying to get down to the bottom. Again, not something we often see from the super speedway racing, but again, these drivers know that this is a long haul, and especially after that first incident, a lot of these drivers, I don't know if it was a wake-up call for them. A lot of times, a lot of people will say, you know, that first caution is either a moment to say, all right, well, we need to calm down, or all right, let's get a little bit more aggressive. And so we'll have to see how these drivers will take that note of the first caution, but Pataska is one of the main benefactors from it. Nathan Dowd, a winner from the first race of the season, up here in second, running well so far, but again, Andrew, a lot of laps, and you can't win them in the first 150.
Can't win them in the first 199, got to win it on lap 200. I've got a long ways to go in this race, and I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a few more cautions over the course of the day.
Well, you start setting it up on 160 or so.
Oh, yeah, you have to set this race up miles in advance, for sure. I give you that. Look at the whole field strung out, mostly single file through the entirety of this 34-car field that stretches down this Daytona Super Stretch. And look who's back up front, Talon Smith, and that's 658.
Yeah, Talon Smith moving. You won't miss that car on track here today at all. I mean, that is the brightest car on track. I think that's the brightest car I've ever seen, that all-pink machine from Talon Smith. He's trying to move up, and look at this on the outside right in front of him. That is Lynn Kinchlow, and he's come up 26 positions as it looks like he just gets hung out to dry. Going to try to fall in line here, falls behind Talon Smith.
Yeah, Lynn was trying to go forward there on the outside of Tom Abramitis and got hung out in turn one. You want to be on the inside for the corners and the outside for the straights, and it's difficult to do both. So you get to one side for one maybe, and you get an advantage there, a disadvantage there. It's give and take here at Daytona International Speedway. This is one place that really demands full attentiveness in this car. And it comes down to the car, really. It's not even the racetrack. You can take this car anywhere, and it's going to take full attentiveness from the driver, as now they'll swap back. Kinchlow taking that spot back away from Talon Smith. But this race car, it just demands everything out of you. I don't know how these guys are doing 1,500 miles this weekend of racing between these 3 events. I'm talking to you, Kyle Hendricks. Talking to you, Robert Northway. I don't know how you guys are doing it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing it as well, because that is a lot for those drivers. And 500 miles here tonight. They will run already about 50 miles in the books for them so far as we come to complete lap number 20 onto lap number 21. A little bit of 3 wide here action across the line. Now almost 4 wide. Car in the wall.
That car in the wall, one of them anyways, was Robert Northway in the 46. The other one was Jason Wallet in the 589. So 2 drivers we've already talked about a lot this evening, both in the wall there on lap 22. This is early, guys. You've got to get laps under your belt. You got to get to at least 122 before that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, some of them looking at as they want to gain some positions here. Saw a bit of 3 wide action there across the line, almost 4 wide. Someone got squeezed into the wall. A few drivers actually. No damage truly suffered and no big wreck or incident there, but you might have some damage and your car might be driving different. Something I've noticed here, Andrew, about these 1987 machines is you talked about it. A lot of them getting single flat out because they use the bottom in the corners and outsides on the straightaways. Something we see at a lot of other tracks, like the half milers or like we see at any short track or the 1.5 milers on oval surfaces. But again, these cars just need all that room to travel.
Yeah, they need the full racetrack, and you go back years back, they used to use the full width of the racetrack in their qualifying laps even, and this car demands that. These cars, I should say, is you've got 4 options, the Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, and Pontiac. 1 car on the wall, it's Northway. He got the wall hard, corrects it, gets back on the racetrack, and will continue on, but there again, the car demands all of the width of the racetrack. You've got to use every bit of it to track all the way out at corner exit and try to hang on. Let's ride on board with Northway and just watch his hands, at least his sim driver's hands, as he pushes up out of the corner. The car just kind of goes along, and he's got to try and fight it and keep it down.
Now I'm looking at that right front, and it looks to be no visible damage for him in that right front wheel, and so should be driving all good for him. And yeah, this car is such a different look from a lot of the other stock cars that we get to see now and today, and so just such a different look, and it's so cool to get this camera view, see what these drivers are truly seeing here from the perspective of Robert Northway. He falls back a little bit from that incident, but again, a driver that we believe can make his way back to the front.
You want to talk about seeing what the driver's seeing? I got a camera for you right here. Right up on where the helmet would be. This is driver's eye POV properly. You got the window net there on the left side, just seeing over the hood. This is driver's POV. I love this camera and all the cars that we have here on Pit Stop TV. This is just such a good, you've even got the mirror there at the top right.
A mirror there in the top right, and you can actually see more of that out of that mirror than you can in most of iRacing cars. I remember that when I race a super late model, I'm like, well, I can't even use that because I can't see out of it. That one you actually can. So these drivers continue to click off laps here. 26 completed so far, or on lap 26 so far, and a little bit of double file action here, 3 rows back.
Yeah, this is deep in the field. These guys are lifting a lot throughout the corners. You've got to this far back. The air is so turbulent, and it's moving around every which way. It's moving the car around, buffering the car a little bit. And, of course, the bumps that we've talked about on this racetrack as well. Tires are falling away. You've just got to lift so much around the corners in these cars at this point in the run, even though we're only, 10 laps into it. There's a lot of off-throttle time.
A lot of off-throttle time for these drivers, and again, one that they'll have to be patient in. Dallas Pataska continues to lead out front after the caution, after the big incident, and Talon Smith running in 4th currently after going up and over what seemed like so many times for us. Looks like he's content to ride right now, but Tom Abromaitis, you'll see him get out of line right there. He just pulls back in. I imagine, Andrew, that's so that he can get some air to that radiator. These drivers drive in line for so long, those temperatures can go up pretty quickly if they don't get regular air to those radiators. So you'll see a lot of drivers peek out sometimes to try to make sure that they are cooling that engine.
Yeah, temps will be something these drivers manage over the course of the race, and you see it's not terribly hot or anything, 67 degrees in the air, 83 on track, but it will be a matter of managing temperatures in this car. You'll want to make sure you stagger out to get some air to the nose at some point to try and keep temperatures down and maybe even give a little bit of space to the car ahead of you as Kinchlow looks to the inside of Tom Abramitis. That is for third position. One of the rare battles we're seeing up front, and they make contact.
A little bit of contact between Kinchlow and Abramitis. You saw Kinchlow able to switch back position with Talon Smith. Him and Talon have been switching for quite a few laps, and there Kinchlow was able to get up almost to third, but then him and Abramitis made that contact. And, you know, the passing style here is definitely different than we see at a lot of super speedway tracks. You would normally see double file most of the way around. You got to create runs. Sometimes you have to make your own line, but here it really acts like any normal track that you can see. If you can get a run down the back straightaway, you can throw it to the inside and force yourself there, and through the draft, you will just get through into that position.
You know, this is a lot more akin to what we see nowadays for maybe not the Gen 6 or Gen 7, call it the Gen 4 at a big speedway like Charlotte or Kansas. That would be like, it's somewhat similar in that you have off throttle time, back in the gas, trying to manage it throughout the corner and try to set up passes, as you say, more like a cookie cutter or a speedway, trying to get runs here and there as opposed to side-by-side double file pack racing. And here's a run for Kinchlow to the inside at 217 miles per hour into turn 3. I'd imagine there was some brake applied, but that puts Kinchlow on the inside of Abramitis, and Kinchlow is going to take that spot truly away for the moment. Maybe not.
Yeah, you see Smith gets a great run, goes to the outside, but then here Abramitis cannot get all the way to the bottom, but cannot keep that true momentum up. That keeps these two drivers side by side heading down into turn number 1. As we see that, Nathan Dowd looks to the outside to get some air onto his nose. So still side by side here for third between Abramitis and Kinchlow. Kinchlow, no momentum on that top side here, and so Abramitis will hold it.
Kinchlow looks really good right now in traffic, and I gotta say that car is making moves where a lot of cars can't, it looks like, but he is starting to slide up the racetrack there, right into Talon Smith, just hangs on to it. Not too much contact, they keep on moving. Nathan Dowd falls back one spot, though, into third position. Abramitis got by pretty cleanly.
Man, that was close between them. It's so difficult to be side by side off those corners, especially on the exit of 4. You know, we mentioned earlier how you can just be so vulnerable there on the outside of turn number 4, and we'll see Talon Smith continue to try to move forward here. Nathan Dowd falls back just a little bit. Abramitis promoted up into second. Meanwhile, Christian Abate right here moves up into fourth for the moment. But Dowd is going to have that preferred line, but I think Abate is going to have just enough to try to squeeze down here, and yes, he will. So Christian Abate moves up into fourth. Nathan Dowd falls from second to fifth across the stripe.
And that completes the 32nd lap of racing. Still a long ways to go. You know, I was watching the broadcast earlier from the international and European regions, and they each went about 3 hours and change, 3 hours and 20 minutes, 3 hours and 30 minutes thereabouts. This one should be around that range. A long day here at Daytona for these guys. We're going to stretch pretty close to 11 o'clock Eastern, probably a little bit beyond that. This is going to be a late night for some of these drivers, and for some of the international drivers that are running this America's race, I got to wonder where they are in the world and just how late it's going to be for them. If some of them are running into Monday morning, Monday afternoon, even for some of the Australians might be in here. Golly, I don't know how these guys do it, but as we work lap 34 now, mostly single file throughout the course of your top end of the field. A couple of cars in trouble. Greg McInerney into the inside, it looks like. Maybe not the wall, but spinning around at least. No caution.
Yeah, McInerney there has a problem in that number 35. Very slow on track right now. And so trying to get up to speed. That car has a big damage, but he's able to get up to speed now. We'll take a look back at what happened. Oh, just some contact there. That was Brian Barnes. It got into the back of McInerney. And so that, again, off of turn number 4, Andrew.
And McInerney is lucky that car is set back down. I thought he was going to blow over when Barnes got into him here. Barnes just gives him a shot after he already got loose, and I really thought he was going up and over.
Yeah, not surprised to see that car stay on the ground. Must have had just enough time on its side to be able to slow it down enough that the air couldn't scoop right up under that rear end. So he is back on track and up to speed, but he is
Spinner, James Jones.
Back. Oh, problem. Oh, big hit. Oh, and that was, I think that was our first spinner earlier on. I got to look at it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, spinner. That's going to bring out our second caution, Andrew.
James C. Jones in trouble in the 593.
It was LaHerbier. That's who made the contact, and that was our first spinner. So Vincent LaHerbier was already 2 laps down after his first spin, and right there, unable to keep and avoid contact.
Something happened early here on the 593. He was already in trouble, and yeah, LaHerbier comes through in the 546. Points leader coming into today, so we'll recap this event a little bit more and see what happened.
Yeah, that's James Jones in his Pontiac machine in that 593. This is going into turn number 1 where we'll see, does he make contact here with the car behind? No spins, all on his own. Tries to save it, comes back on track. Other drivers are able to move out of the way. Then James tries to get back up to speed here on the apron, spins it around again, drifts up on track enough that LaHerbier nowhere to go.
What a near miss, though, for that 122 that was right behind. That was really, really close. Let's get the onboard here with the 122 machine. Driver's POV, you're going to watch LaHerbier. Oh, wow. Holman got into LaHerbier. That's what kicks this off, and that's why LaHerbier couldn't miss him.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Wow.
I was interested to see how he was on the bottom because, we just talked about how these drivers go to the bottom in the corners and then drift up to the top. So, LaHerbier wouldn't have been there in a normal circumstance, and obviously, as you can see, was not in a normal circumstance after that contact with Homan.
That's really intriguing as to how this all set up.
Yeah, it looks like LaHerbier just started to check up big time. Saw smoke and started to check up. Homan was not prepared for it. Gets into the rear of Herbier. That drifts him down to the bottom. He's able to save it, but while he's saving it, getting down to the bottom, there is James Jones sideways on the double yellow lines.
Kyle Hendricks, 2 tires down and away. The driver that swept pole across all 3 regions will work out of the pit lane first. Dallas Pataska follows. But everybody else takes 4 tires rather. This 2-tire call is, it's bold is what I'll say.
It is definitely bold. These tires are very important on these machines. We talked about how light they feel in terms of how they drive, how on edge they are. And so you need every bit of grip you can ask for in these 87 machines. And so yes, 2 tires is definitely an aggressive call here in these cars. Again, we'd see a lot of cars here like the trucks, the Xfinity cars, the NASCAR Gen 7s, even the ARCA car and the Gen 4s that we get to see. 2 tires wouldn't be crazy, especially at a place like Daytona. But when you drive a car like this that has almost no downforce and is so light on its wheels, you need every bit of grip you can have.
There's a look at Kyle Hendricks, who will lead us around under this caution. It's a Ford Thunderbird, but if you didn't notice, it's painted up to be like a Chevy Lumina. And
yeah, I know that was confusing me for a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those cars that looks just enough like another one that these guys painted up to be a little bit different. So while it is a Thunderbird body, it's painted up like a Lumina from the 90s. Slightly different era, but that's okay. As
I was going to say, they land that a little bit after.
While these guys run under this yellow, want to take a look at what's upcoming for us here at Pit Stop TV. Next up, we head out to the Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park with the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series. That's Tuesday evening, February the 18th. From there, we head out to Homestead Miami Speedway for the SimRap Market Series in what will be their second race of the playoffs. And then Thursday, you'll see Dallas Pataska potentially in the Sarah Pierce Fleet Service Super Series at a track that is yet to be named. It's a mystery event, mystery round, the 5th of 5 this season.
Event,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is. It's the final one this season before we cap things off at Lanier. And you just might see Dallas Pataska, one of the Majors Garage builders and one of the drivers in this race, in that event. He tends to run that series quite a bit, and we certainly appreciate whenever Dallas is able to do so. You can find all of these broadcasts and more at our social media platforms down below. Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and X, all included there. And this is going to be a fun restart. Watching Kyle Hendricks bring it back to the green flag with old left side tires, new right side tires. It's going to be something special as you see the entire field double back up. This is one, I don't want to say inaccuracy, but one liberty that's been taken to do double file restarts as opposed to single file restarts. Single file restarts can have some problems. Double file, I think, is just a little bit more normal for these guys, so we opt for double file here this evening, this weekend. And that will take us into the Geico restart zone from the fan cam here at Daytona. Let's watch this one. Green flag back in the air. Off the turn 2, banking and down the backstretch. Pataska with a run. He's got help from Talon Smith.
Pataska, great momentum out of turn number 2 on the top side of him and Talon Smith, able to move through on the outside of Kyle Hendricks. So they'll secure themselves up into those first 2 positions. Meanwhile, drivers still double file all throughout this field. And like you mentioned, Andrew, it's something that we never got to see with these cars before because weirdly enough, they didn't start double file. They started single file. And I've always thought that's so weird that they didn't always start double file. I say that in my head.
Yeah, those single file restarts used to be a work of art back in the day. And I guess that was the more natural way for them to do it. You had a single file race happening, restart a single file, but I do like these double file restarts. It gives us that energy every time we go back green that we so much want. You want these guys to be double file racing. You want these guys to be packed up like that. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, I definitely love to see it. I love the innovation from NASCAR back in the early 2000s to make that move to try double file restarts. What they always saw it down in the early days of racing with late model stocks, with supers, with everything down in the grassroots area of racing. It just hadn't made its way up to the top yet until the early 2000s. And I think a lot of racing in stock cars has benefited because of it. But really, they haven't single filed out yet. We normally saw them by this time get all into a single file line, but some of these drivers still holding the top.
One of those drivers is Robert Nash in behind the 777 of Ross Banfield. They are making hay on the outside lane, going by Ryan Steele in the 12 car. He's down there in that Don Bear, number 12. On board right now with Robert Nash in a Buick.
And Robert Nash right to the outside. We ride on board.
Banfield jumped out of the gas big time.
Oh my goodness, huge moment there for Banfield. Big out of the gas in that 777. And so he's able to pull down to the inside, but going to lose the position here, possibly to Robert Nash.
And Nash in that outside lane has the run down these short chutes, but then loses the draft in the tri-oval. Will manage that momentum on the top side of the racetrack here to turn 1, then loses the draft, but gets clear, it looks like, of that 777 of Banfield. So pass made by Robert Nash there. Here comes Christian Challoner, who had that damage in that opening crash. Moving back forward in that Ford Thunderbird.
It really looks like you can honestly make passes on either sides of these cars. We've seen a lot of people, a lot of drivers dive down to the inside and try to get that momentum down the back straightaway to make those passes, but you just saw it right there from Nash and then from the one of Challoner. You're also able to make that run on the outside. You lose the draft in the corners like you said, but the draft that you pick back up on the back straightaways is enough that you can pull forward.
I will never tire of hearing these cars scream around the Daytona high banks. You know, we've got a segment for that, actually. Let's go ahead and use it while we can. We've got Sounds of the Sim here at Pit Stop TV. We're going to go quiet for a moment and just listen into these guys and how amazing these cars sound. For the race lead, Lynn Kinchlow to the inside of Dallas Pataska. That's going to bring Kyle Hendricks on through in the 385. Big change there for the point of this race. Kinchlow has been one of the more aggressive drivers in this event and uses it there, that aggression, to go right on through to the front of the field ahead of Kyle Hendricks and Dallas Pataska. It'll be Nathan Dowd in fourth, Talon Smith in fifth, and then back to a Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Christian Abate in the sixth position. But so far, I've really enjoyed watching that Buick Regal of Lynn Kinchlow get aggressive, make some moves, and that time it works out to go to the race lead. Staying up here with these guys out front, Kinchlow, Hendricks, Pataska, Dowd, and Smith. Been a relatively quiet run so far, a lot of single file, but more of the field is together now. I would say just about the entire field is together all the way back through Austin Peterson, back in the 77 car, who runs in 22nd. That's the first big separation. So that separation for the Giga Racing 77 is the first big gap that we see right now. That goes back to Austin O'Neill in the 5 car, and Vincent Leherbier even in the 546, who's 2 laps down. And then there's a couple of other smaller packs. Brian Barnes is on the lead lap, James Jones on the lead lap, but then Joseph Homan, Brenton Foster, and Vincent Leherbier are all 1 lap down. And here is a look at Joseph Homan in the 122, about to go a 2nd lap down, and join Brenton Foster and Vincent Leherbier 2 laps down. There's Foster.
Omen there was served a black flag for avoidable contact on lap number 35. He had to come and serve that penalty. And looking at, this is my favorite car of the night, Brenton Foster in that beautiful number 11. I love the look of it. I just love it. It's very old 87s to 90s era theme, and I just love the look of it. It looks a lot like I've got this DuPont sweatshirt from Jeff Gordon, and it reminds me of that, of the Rainbow Warrior before we ever got to see it, because this would have been 87 before he was able to make his debut.
And a change for the race lead again. Kyle Hendricks goes by Lynn Kinchlow. The driver that was fastest in qualifying, sat on pole in all 3 regions, moves to the front of the field, was a part of that .001 second interval at the end of the European race. Kyle Hendricks has got it going on.
Hendricks able to make the move there, but here Kinchlow trying to dive to the inside and make a move. He's going to have a great run on the inside, but has a little bit of a side draft there from Hendricks. Yes, this started all long ago. You could side draft back then. It was definitely more detrimental, and you saw Kinchlow had a great run, but as soon as Hendricks put the left front to the right rear, he stalled out.
That was impressive stuff from Kyle Hendricks to get right down on the right side door like that, have the ability to do that, the confidence to do that. That was impressive, as Talon Smith now one car on the outside lane, and yes, that was dangerous, but it worked out.
It did, and that's some of those moves where you weigh the risk, and Hendricks wants to lead this pack right now. He determined that it was the right move to make. A bit of checkup there on the outside. Hendricks trying to dominate this race in terms of keeping that control up front, and I think that's how he likes it best. We saw him start on pole and lead earlier before that contact with Talon. We think we've seen Kyle Hendricks at his best when he's out front in control here at Daytona.
So Hendricks, Kinchlow, Pataska, the names that are becoming staples at the front of this field. Dowd and Smith run 4th and 5th. They've been a lot of fun to watch as well, but so far it's all been those three out front, I feel like, that have led most of the laps and really shown these guys what for in this race. And it's been a lot of fun to watch each of them, and I'm surprised Hendricks is back up here. He led earlier in this race after starting on pole, was involved in that crash early in the day, has gotten back up to the front of the field. That's impressive to do, to go front to back to front.
It is extremely impressive, and we've seen drivers, the ones that can make moves. We've seen Kinchlow able to make moves, work his way. He started all the way back in 30th, and after that first caution we saw, he was able to shuffle himself up towards the front, and he has been here ever since. 28 positions gained so far. Nathan Dowd also started in the mid-pack. He's up 12 positions from the start of this race and has been able to stay at the front. And Nathan Dowd, one of those drivers that we definitely know is a good driver all around. He won where we were back at the Daytona Road Course in our different types of cars with the IMSA classes. And so one of those drivers who, and that's one thing about the Major Series, we run so many different types of cars, different disciplines of racing at different tracks, that you're going to have drivers that are good at some and not so good at others. But Nathan Dowd, one of those drivers that at least so far through our first two races, showing that he can do a little bit of both right now.
And it takes completely different skill sets too. I mean, this is a completely different animal compared to the Daytona 2.4, as we got some three-wide racing in the back end of the top 10. Ross Banfield, Ray Partridge, and Robert Northway all swapping positions there. Northway goes on by in the 46 car, now to 10th position. Banfield goes to 11th, but here comes, that's going to be Partridge on the inside for that 11th spot. Also some side-by-side racing with the 12 and the 1. That is Steele and Challoner.
Yeah, Banfield been falling back a little bit here. He was running up near the 7th and 8th position not 10 laps ago, but just been falling through the field just a little bit here. And so the 8 of Ray Partridge is trying to get on the inside, make those moves like we've seen from other drivers before, but Banfield trying to solidify himself in this top 10 using that momentum on the top side.
Oh, Banfield got real close to the wall there. Got a teammate behind him on the outside lane. That's going to be Jason Wallet. Maybe they can link up and try to go forward. I mean, I know we talked earlier about how little you'll see these guys push, but you can absolutely link up and draft together. Maybe not make too many pushes, but make moves together at the very least.
They can make a few moves together, and so we continue to ride along here with Ross Banfield. Inside of this 92, and just makes that huge lunge down into the corner.
Oh, just gets into the outside wall there for a moment, does Banfield, or rather Wallet. Get the two mixed up as Banfield goes down low, one car high. That is the 44 of Lynn Kinchlow going backwards. Falling back now to Northway. Northway will go by, and the 44, who was oh so aggressive in leading laps just a little bit ago, is falling back as Dallas Pataska will take over from Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, just mentioned Kinchlow running in the top 5 ever since he got there. This is the first time that he's fallen out. And Robert Norway, after being a lap down, after being a lap down earlier, moving his way. He's up into the top 10 now for sure, working to the inside of Talon Smith. Oh, the 44 into the wall. He's going to slide to the inside. Can he save it? No. Huge contact with the inside. He'll slide across pit road. We stay green at the moment.
That's a major impact, and that will draw the caution. Lynn Kinchlow has been so much fun to watch today. And unfortunately, we'll have to fall back on a fast repair if Lynn still has one. I believe yes. And there you go. You see the fast repair take effect. So we'll go back and get a look at what just happened to Lynn.
Yeah, had to use that, and golly, you saw Lynn there here right on the outside, just gets into the wall, and then like we've seen off turn 4, it's almost inevitable that you're going to slide to that inside wall. Complete right front destruction there within the suspension of that wheel, and you'll get a view on board from Kinchlow. Yeah, just drifts up too wide. On the high side, you're trying to carry all the momentum out of the corner that you can. Just gets a little bit up too high, grazes the outside wall, and then loses control.
I like the attempt to spin the car back around and stand on the throttle, try and get away from that inside wall, but once he took that big lunge there from the outside to the inside just like that, it was all over.
Yeah, just a little bit. He just had too much speed when he tried to turn that car around to gain the speed. It just whipped around real quick. You know, when I was watching the truck race, I saw Tony Breidinger. She was sliding like that. Her back end came near, and I was like, gas up, gas up, gas up. And she wasn't quite getting it, and I was like, oh, no, and she hit the outside wall. So you saw Kinchlow trying to pull that move there, and we've seen it work before. We saw Jimmy Johnson quite many years ago. I think it was at Dover. He had about 3 spins and was able to keep it barely off the inside wall. And so you'll see drivers sometimes when they get a little edgy out of turn 4 try to do that, and sadly it did not work for Lynn Kinchlow. So that'll relegate him back to the 29th position. And a lot of drivers coming into the pit lane, they were looking like they were getting low on fuel. They ran 22 laps there, Andrew.
And you can run about 36 to a tank, but with unlimited tires, it's a no-brainer. Come in and get tires every single time.
Yeah, no issue to take 4. And you know what? Mentioning that, we saw Hendricks last time around take 2. It worked out very well for him. Obviously, Kyle Hendricks, an excellent driver across this field, you know, ran all 3 this weekend and has swept them so far. And so he definitely is in a bit of a class of his own in terms of driver skill. But does that open up some of these drivers to say, maybe I can take 2 tires?
I think it's something to keep in your back pocket, as we'll see Hendricks lose the race off pit lane. Patasco wins it. Then Christian Abate will take 4 and win the race between himself and Hendricks. So it's Patasco, then Abate, and Hendricks. That's what I'm trying to say here. Nathan Dowd will be the 4th car off, rather. Northway the 5th car off. Lynn Kinchlow ahead of these guys for the time being, but should get passed up. I think it's something to keep in your back pocket that you can take 2 tires after a short run and go back out there and hang on. But it's a dangerous game to play for sure, to have tires of different temperatures under green, and when you barrel off into that first corner, that's it's a dangerous game to play, and you got to be sure that you want to tangle with it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, I mean, it's a risk for sure for any of these drivers, even those as good as Kyle Hendricks. And I guess some drivers can use that, but it's something that they can definitely hang on to for the end of this race. 100 miles of, well, no, I guess more than 100 miles. 100 miles have been lap 40. So over 100 miles complete, Andrew. A lot of road to run, though.
Got 150 miles complete this time by. How about that?
There we go. Look, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not so good at math. You know, speaking of that, I thought this was so funny. I don't know if you were able to watch the World Series of Asphalt this past week at New Smyrna, but I was watching it, and one of their pit reporters, I believe her name is Jessie. I can't quite remember her last name, but this was so hilarious.
Jessie Punch?
Yes, Jessie Punch. She was so great in doing her pit reporting. Great talent there at Flow Racing. But she was. It was night 7, and her and the announcers were talking, and she was like, "I think I completely forgot about night 6. You know, I got into this profession because I thought I wasn't going to have to do math." And I don't remember who the lead announcer was, but he was like, "I think all of us did." And I thought it was so funny because I've thought the same thing. You know, this is what I want to do for a career, and we talk about math so often. I just thought it was hilarious.
These races are numbers games, and I think it might come down to numbers here this evening. It's unexpected, but boy, does it reach out and grab you as far as the number game and all the math you have to do. Well, this will bring us back to the green flag here in a moment with Pataska and Abate out front, Hendricks and Dowd in row 2, Northway and Steele in row 3, Challoner and Partridge in row 4, Smith and Banfield in row 5. And something I can never tire of talking about is this schedule. Next up, in a month's time, we'll go racing at Road America for the GT World Challenge event here in the Major Series. So about a month between events here to get the season started, then about 3 weeks between the World Challenge event and the World 600. Another month until the Speedway 500, and then things pick up a little bit with the Le Mans 2.4 on June 1st, the Majors 24 on June 21st, and then we carry on. About a month later, we go for the GP of Miami. Another month after that, thereabouts anyways, we have our own World Series of Asphalt events. That was my big segue. You talked about the World Series of Asphalt. We got our own World Series of Asphalt event with the Super Late Model in round 9. And the Americas region will run the Super Late Model. Other regions will run other cars at that event. But we are back green this evening and racing with just over 150 miles complete. Pataska takes over the top side of the racetrack, rocketing off of turn number 2 and bringing that 09 along with him. Hendricks now to the inside of the 09.
Yeah, Dallas Pataska, a strong driver. I love that paint scheme that he is running tonight in that number 24, the Holly machine. And I love just the old style it is. You see him trying to block these lanes, goes down to block Kyle Hendricks. Double file they are right now, and great speed is building. And this is something that we haven't gotten to see quite yet. 2 very strong lanes and 1 driver out front having to play the blocking game.
Playing Pied Piper, as I always say. It's working so far. Hendricks and Abate kept at bay. Northway right behind Hendricks. He's got Challoner and Smith along with him, and he'll get to the inside of that 24 car through turns 3 and 4.
They'll get there side by side. Now it is here for this lead. Kyle Hendricks going to have the dominant line here into the tri-oval. That'll nudge him ahead. He'll lead that lap in that number 385. Dallas Pataska, momentum off the top side, gives him an edge. But this is the first time tonight that we've seen significant double file racing at the front of this pack. Is this what we're going to see near the end, Andrew?
It's what they'll try and do as one car pulls out, makes it 3 wide, Northway to the inside as we rip down to turn number 3. Hendricks backs out. That was smart, but Northway, a big charge right to the race lead.
Northway earlier in this race was a lap down, got his lap back on the first caution between Talon Smith and Kyle Hendricks. Now he has made his way to the front, battling on the inside of Dallas Pataska for the lead of this race on lap 65.
Looking on board with Northway out the right side window at the 24 of Pataska. You see 200 miles off the corner, 200 miles per hour off the corner. What's it going to be when they get down to turn number 3? 210, 211, 212, rocketing up. 217, 218 into the corner.
Gosh, they run so fast in these 1987's machines. This was before they were truly restricted on speed. Whoa! Big move on the inside from Dallas Pataska. That's going to slow him up but give him the lane. that he wants here on the inside. So a bit of a switcheroo between the lanes for Northway and Pataska, but Northway able to pull out front, get clear, and moves back down to the bottom. Meanwhile, Greg McKinney on track here on pit road. He has a problem. We saw him earlier have an issue. Didn't take that fast repair. He takes it there. So a bit of a problem for that 35.
Out front, though, Christian Abate gets a push here from Talon Smith. And we are 2x2 racing still. Northway on the inside, Abate on the outside, and it tightens up off the corner. They've got more racing room than they used to have back in the day, but it's still not a whole lot here in the new version of Daytona International Speedway. We could have used the old version. We could have sent these guys for a real loop and really had no room to race, but that would have been too much fun. No, these guys, I think the racing is a little bit better here on this new version. I like that we opted for it with the Major Series this season. And maybe next season they'll go for the old one, but this is a really good combo.
It's an excellent combo, and I think this is that time of the race that we've seen these drivers pick up a little bit on the aggression. Earlier on in the first 50 laps, we saw them single file for almost most of the time running this line, but now here crossing over to after lap 65, well, they've decided they want to go double file for now, and this lead continues to switch back and forth. It's Pataska, then it's Northway, then it's Hendricks, then it's Christian Abate. All four of them continue to juggle this lead back and forth.
Christian Challoner moving up here. Could be in this lead battle here shortly. Really is there already. Just 3 cars ahead of him as they fire off into turn number 3. You see Christian work on the inside line there and nearly gets into the very inside the apron there into the corner. And it's a 3-car breakaway now.
Yeah, Abate going to get real slow on the exit of the corner. And so he's going to move back on that outside, loses a few positions here, and big run for Talon Smith. But yeah, Abate had a big moment on the exit of turn number 4. Luckily, he was able to save it. This is the one of Christian Challoner, currently running up in 4th. We saw him a lot here up in this top 5 earlier. It was running about in the 5th position, and so he's been able to move up just a little bit, but been running top 10 all day long. Talon Smith goes to the inside here on the 96 of Robert Nash, so they battle it out for that 5th spot.
A nice battle here as we work up to lap number 70. Pataska, Hendricks, Northway, still your top 3. And we do something here at Pit Stop TV called Driver of the Day. You might have heard of it in the Formula One broadcasts, something like that. Well, it's brought to you here at Pit Stop TV by the North American Racing League, and we do that to have a little bit of fun. I'm already concocting who I'm going to nominate for Driver of the Day today. We'll talk about it somewhere around lap 125 or so and have that vote up the rest of the afternoon or evening, I suppose. But start thinking about it, fans watching at home on YouTube especially. That's where the vote will be. Start thinking about who might constitute as Driver of the Day for you as one car is slow. Jason Wallet off the top end of the racetrack is going to have to come into the pit lane, I think.
Yeah, Wallet, I don't know. He's slow on track. Not sure why in that number 589. So not sure why he's slow. We'll take a look at your Pit Stop TV replay to see what happened. Running in the pack here. He was running in 20th at this moment. Oh yeah, just carries too much speed, gets into the wall. Doesn't look like he has any damage. Man, near contact with those drivers on the inside, but that slows him down a lot.
And you see the difference in pace, 217 in the draft versus 200 on his own. And he still has to lift even on his own here. Can't run wide open. So he is going to hemorrhage a ton of time here. Already has. And is going to fall well back in the field.
Yeah, a lot of drivers that get out of lane like this, get out of the draft, have eventually gone on to go laps down. We're 12 laps complete on this stint, the last time these drivers came into the pits. So about 20 or so more laps of fuel, but Talon Smith continues to be a factor up front, running top 5 all day long, except for that issue he had with Hendricks. After he got his fast repair, he was back to the top 5 as fast as we could blink an eye, and he battles here on the inside of Pataska, side by side across the line, 72 complete.
And Smith slides up and takes that spot away. One of the forces in this race that has been quieted a lot finally leads a lap. I say quieted. It was mostly that mistake for Hendricks off of turn 4 where Hendricks just got loose and Smith had nowhere to go. Went up and over earlier in the day, I'm going to say 60 laps ago. That's been the one detour for Talon Smith so far. Otherwise, that bright pink machine has been out front a lot, just not leading laps until now.
Well, and one thing he has to keep in his mind, one thing he has to keep in his mind is that fast repair. He's used it already. He has no more room for error. If he makes any contact with anything now, it'll be natural damage that he'll have to come and fix, and that will take time. So he has to stay clean from here on out. We've still got more than 125 laps to go.
Here comes a shot maybe from Dallas Pataska, getting right to the back end of that 658. Gives him a little bit of speed off into the corner. And we're properly racing single file. Now these guys, I think at this point, are starting to ride around, realize where they're at in this race. It's still very early, still ahead of halfway. And they've got a long ways to go. I say that, and here comes Christian Challoner on the inside of Robert Northway making a pass.
Yeah, we saw that aggression pick up about 10 laps ago. Then 5 laps after that, they've calmed down just a little bit. Robert Northway, we saw him battling for the lead a little bit earlier. Well, he's relegated back now into the 6th position, now 7th, excuse me. And he tries to go to the outside to make a move. Not enough momentum on there, and so he'll fall back into 7th behind Christian Abate.
First car battling on the outside is going to be back here in the number 8. That's going to be Ray Partridge. I say that, and again, Christian Challoner making a move, this time on Kyle Hendricks. So Challoner is he must be listening in and just taking everything I say and throwing it right out the window, because as soon as I say they're not racing up front, he goes and races. Gets by Hendricks. Hendricks will fall back now to 5th, maybe 6th.
Surprised to see Hendricks not try to fall in line there in front of Christian Abate. So now they battle it out side by side for this 5th position. Hendricks, like we said, just picks up that draft on the outside, but not going to be enough here in the corner. The 09 had a great run through 3 and 4, so that gave him the spot. He's in the top 5 again.
Here we go for the race lead. Dallas Pataska, a run on the inside, and that will take the lead away from Talon Smith. Here comes Christian Challoner to follow through. That's going to bring Robert Nash, point leader.
And this is going to leave Smith out to dry there on the outside. He'll pick up the draft here on the back straightaway. With the minute they go into the corners, Abate is going to have it there. And this is just how we saw him pass Kyle Hendricks a moment ago. Not going to have quite the run he did one lap ago, but he will just have enough that Smith will have to move into line. And so there, Abate goes from 7th to 4th in 3 laps.
Got one car in danger of going a lap down. That's going to be, we're going to find out in a second, that's going to be the 77. Austin Peterson, already 2 laps down actually for Peterson, so he is in danger of going a 3rd lap down. Running on his own here. We can recap some of the cars that are off the pace maybe. Austin Peterson there in 33rd, Timothy Klaus in 31st. Klaus already a lap down and passing Vincent Laherbier, who's in the pit lane, along with Joseph Homan in the pit lane. Both of these drivers pitting. They must have stayed out to get a lap back earlier and not had enough fuel to continue on.
Yeah, probably stayed out a moment ago. We saw them have a black flag earlier on, at least for Homan. This might be an early pit stop for him. As you see, Pataska now gets hung out to dry on the outside. And so down here, they stayed to the bottom down the front straightaway, and so he had no draft to pick up there, and that moves Christian Challoner up to the lead for the first time today. So we've seen so many lead changes, so many new leaders, and put on the ticker Christian Challoner as one of them.
We'll bring up the race infographic, bottom left of your screen. 16 lead changes, and I'm not even sure if that's counting this one yet. A lot of lead changes, as you say, this evening. It has been a very back-and-forth race. All kinds of drivers getting the race lead. And you know what we can do with the ticker? If you pay attention there on the left side of your screen, if we set it to laps led here, you can see just who has led a lap. Now, unfortunately, it shows the decimal, but don't worry about that part. Challoner now with 2 laps led. Talon Smith with 4. Pataska with 44 laps led. Abate with 1. Hendricks with 23. Northway with 1. Kinchlow with 3. Peterson with 1. So on and so forth through your field. That is a little tidbit that we can throw up at times. I love using it, don't use it very often, but that shows you, Scott, just who has led a lap so far in this race.
I didn't even know that you could do that through ATVO. I've looked for that for so long. You'll have to show me that after the race, because laps led is a stat that I've always wanted to have. And so I think that's something really cool that you can pop up there. Challoner leads his 3rd there. And like you mentioned, Pataska and Hendricks leading 2 of the most today. Pataska leading 44, Hendricks leading 23. But right now, it's Challoner out front, and like you mentioned, this is that 77 of Austin Peterson. They're coming up on here, down on the bottom. They'll have to try to get around him swiftly.
Oh, Talon Smith out to the outside wall there, lucky to hang on to it, as they will go by Austin Peterson in that 77 car. I believe that's a throwback to Ken Reagan. Here comes Talon Smith to go on by. Going to bring Dallas Pataska. And this is one of the longer runs we've seen so far. I will knock on wood, but we're starting to see a 5-car breakaway out front.
Yeah, this is a tie right now for the longest green flag run we had. We saw one earlier go for 22 laps. We are on lap 22 since we dropped the green for this restart. And so it might be, and again, I'm also going to knock on my wooden desk to see this could be the possibility for us to have the first green flag pit stops of the night. But again, we've got about 13 laps or so before these drivers will need to pit.
On board with leader Christian Challoner, looking back at the field, namely Robert Nash in that 96 car right behind him. Robert Nash comes into today with the points lead, tied with Vincent Laherbier and with Nathan Dowd. So to finish up front would only keep that 96 car out front of the points going into what is going to be a tumultuous round at Road America. We've seen just what GT3 cars can do there and how crazy it can be. We saw that with the sim race for the kids back in January here on Pit Stop TV. A healthy field of GT3 cars in a team race setting. Went after it for, I want to say it was a 3-hour race or 2.5-hour race, something like that. And it was a very, very fun event. Of course, all in benefit of Sick Kids Foundation, but excuse me, that can be a pretty crazy round. GT3 cars at Road America can be pretty out there. So we'll have to see how that ends up going. To have those points going into that round would be a huge benefit to Robert Nash. Of course, a points lead at any point in time is a good thing, but to have him going into that round specifically, and then the World 600, and then the Speedway 500 after that, that would be a really good start to the season.
It's just one of those things where it's so up and over every race. I mean, it's really up in the air depending on who is going to lead. We've seen a lot of different drivers be able to come out on top to these 2 different disciplines that we've had so far, and so many more that we haven't quite tapped into yet. As we see drivers continue to try to pass this 77, really broken up this field here for the moment being. It's broken up some of these cars as of right now, and so those first about 6 or 7 cars really have got a bit of an edge on everyone from 8th on back. They're a bit split.
And if you go all the way back here out of the lead draft extends about 4 seconds on the racetrack. Then you get back to Lynn Kinchlow back here with the 68 of Brian McGreevy, who is a lap down, actually 2 laps down. Kinchlow runs in 20th, McGreevy runs in 30th. We've also got Brian Barnes back here in the 4 car, James Jones, Jason Lottridge, Bryce Roberts. And Bryce Roberts actually is back here with Jason Wallet and Drew Lalonde.
Yeah, Wallet, last car on the lead lap right now. He's got a pack of 4 in front of him, and they're all trying to stay together. That made up of Drew Lalonde, like you mentioned, and then a few other drivers off the pace, off the lead lap. And so those drivers will try to keep in the draft there and try to make time as they can to stay on this lead lap. 26 complete in this stint since we last came to pit road, 87 complete. So these drivers almost through the 250 miles, but still, like we've mentioned, Andrew, a long way to go.
I want to take this time to thank our partners with Pitstop TV, Whiplash SimCams, ATVO, CC's Business, Cody Williams Design, and Lucky Performance, as well as the North American Racing League. Also a good time to talk about Major's Garage. As my buddy Bryant Lucas would say, go get yourself a setup at majorsgarage.com. Side-by-side racing deeper in this field. Kyle Hendricks moving backwards. I think that car maybe is a really, really good bullet in some clean air earlier in this race, early in the runs. But as the run goes on, it seems like that car falls away from him. He is down to 12th position. Here comes Austin O'Neill. Actually, that's the 11 of Brenton Foster, isn't it? Foster's a lap down.
Yep. He is. He's been a lap down for so long now. Remember, he was two laps down earlier. He got one of them back for being the lucky dog because there was no one else 1 lap down in front of him. Now he is the first car 1 lap down, and so he is definitely hoping for a caution to be able to take that lucky dog, but he's going to have to stay in front of Greg McKinney, and McKinney about 24 seconds back from Foster, so Foster is safe for now.
3 cars sit 1 lap down. Foster, McEnany, and Timothy Klaus. They run 27th, 28th, and 29th on the racetrack. Something new this evening and this round for us here at Pitstop TV is the addition of team names. I want to thank Mike Willett and the entire Majors crew for allowing us to be able to do this. It took a little bit of work on the back end, but we've got team names for most of these drivers. Giga Racing Team for Christian Challoner and for Robert Nash, as they run different manufacturers, a Ford and a Buick. Talon Smith with Legacy Eats. I'm sorry, that's straight to Dallas Pataska. It's actually, we don't have one for Talon Smith just yet, but we have Legacy Esports on file for Dallas Pataska. Christian Abate with Toro Giga Racing Team. And just to look through some of the rest of the field, Robert Northway with Kiwi Sim Racing Speed Nation. Tom Abramitis with Toro Giga Racing Team. Ryan Steele with Dog Bear Kingsman Racing. Nathan Dowd over at Sector 5 Racing. And Lionel Callisto, also at Sector 5 Racing. So teammates there in 9th and 10th, ahead of Nick Kuhn and the Dog Bear Bark number 19 machine.
Yeah, Callisto started out way near the back in this race, up 21 positions from the start. We're right around here with Nick Kuhn in that number 19 machine. So he runs currently on my charts 11th, so right outside of the top 10. Nick Kuhn has had a very quiet night tonight, but trying, sometimes that's not bad. You have a quiet night and then you can be there at the end, because that's when it is important. Keep your car safe for as long as this race goes on and try to be there at the end. So Nick Kuhn might be trying to play a strategy right now.
Nick runs 14 spots higher than he started, and that is impressive in this kind of race. These races come down largely to track position, even from the start of the race. So where you start plays a big role in where you finish. 1 car ahead of these guys, about to go 1 lap down. That's going to be the 122 of Joseph Homan, going another lap down. That'll make it 3 laps down for the 122 so far this evening, as we work lap 92 onto 93.
Yeah,
and these guys, do you see how far they hung out there out of turn 4?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, they go all the way to the wall. Homan going to go to the outside here. Challoner going to go right to the inside. All these leaders single filed out for now. And so that will put Homan 3 laps down. You saw him earlier have that incident, and then it was just unlucky for him from there. Got a black flag for another incident earlier on that was avoidable. And so since then, he's just had trouble being able to stay with this pack. These leaders still single file right now. Challoner led a lot more laps than he had earlier. The last time we checked in, it was 3. I imagine it has gained since then because he has been out front ever since we've talked about him. So Challoner in a great position right now. But let's not forget, Nash, Smith, Pataska, Abate, Norway, Abromaitis are all still there. These top 7 are the 7 that have been going at it all race long.
And we're a matter of laps away, I would say 2 or 3 laps away from pit stops. These guys are right on the edge of having to pit now. We're going to have to pit before lap 100, I'll tell you that much.
Well, and the real question is, did these drivers practice their pit entry? Because a lot of times when I've done races, I've forgotten about pit entry, and you mentioned it earlier, Andrew. Some of these drivers, they used the entire 2-hour practice. Some of them might not have been able to get in the practice session, just had to grid up and figure it out on the racetrack. And so pit road definitely going to be a challenge here for these drivers, especially getting to it under green. So we've now completed 35 laps since we last came to pit road. And so I imagine they'll be coming either this time or the next because those tanks have got to be dry.
So there is a requirement within the series to have to run 50 laps of practice within a major series practice session. But that doesn't stipulate that you have to practice pit entry. So you're right, this could be a little bit hairy for these guys coming down to the pit lane in a lap or two. This is lap 35 of the run. Granted, that includes a couple of caution laps. We were told 36 laps to a tank. That's taking the math of 22 gallons and splitting it up by about 0.6 gallon per lap. So they might have until about 38 laps. But after that, I don't think they can go much further.
Now, they won't be able to go far. It will at least be within the next few laps that we will see them. I imagine if not this lap, the next. Because, again, you don't want to run that risk of running out on track because that could be detrimental to your day. And I'm really interested to see how it will work out with these drivers getting on pit road. Again, they're all single filed out for now. They'll go around another time. And so that'll be 36 laps complete.
Pit stops anytime for these guys. If not this lap, the next lap, I would imagine. They can't go much further. Tanks are drying up.
And I think, Andrew, this is the calmest that we've seen it all day.
It is.
All these drivers have been content to ride here for so many laps ever since that lap 70 that we matched when we had that aggression of the double wide. All these drivers decided that it was time to hang out, hang in the single file line, and just ride. And let's look at it. About your top 11 all the way back to Nick Kuhn, all completely single filed out. And all of them have been content to stay where they are.
And that's smart from these drivers to get in and just run laps and get this race over with, get down to where you can battle for the race win, because this is a long, meaty race. I mean, 200 laps at Daytona, 500 miles. It's a proper Daytona 500. It is a long, long time to go racing. So you've got to just get through the laps, go through the motions, and here we go. I think we might be seeing these guys pit if I can get the words out. Might be seeing it here this time.
Yep,
yes,
drivers off throttle. Some of them stay out. We'll have 4 cars come in. It'll be Challoner, Dowd. Let's see, I think that's Pataska. That's Nash that comes down, and I believe that's a bait.
Yes, it is. Those 4 cars all come in on this lap for service.
Not as many as I thought.
They're all going to come in this next lap. This is actually, I think, smart from these guys to pit on their own and get away from the mess, because this is going to be a scary lap for all these guys to have to pit. I don't think they can hit lap 100 with this tank of fuel. I don't think.
No, I don't think so either, but I like what you said about them being able to avoid this chaos, but it does mean they're going to have less cars to gather themselves up with in the draft, and they will go around for lap 100, so they've got to have just enough to be able to make it. And maybe something that you and I are not taking into account in our fuel mileage is that off-throttle time on the entry and through the center of these corners. Maybe they are saving just a little bit more that is allowing them to go farther than we thought. So this green flag run will set us up for how much we truly know these drivers will average throughout a full green flag run, because right now it's 40 laps.
And once you get a race into this kind of groove, it's easy to stay that way. It's easy to stay in this kind of green flag situation because everybody gets so spread out. You don't have quite as much opportunity for a mistake. I think we'll still see a caution or two left in this race, but here we go, more pit stops. This is going to be Talon Smith and Robert Northway coming in. But you're right, I think these guys have been saving fuel under this green flag run as you see more takers in the background. A bunch of cars coming in there in the back. And, oh, Talon Smith just slid into his box.
Barely able to get it, and that's something you have to have here under green flag conditions. When you take these green flag pit stops, you have to have a perfect pit stop because you cannot risk losing the draft. It is so key. I had a race last week in my opening series as we see more drivers continue to peel off in about packs of 4 or 5. So a lot of drivers getting together with their teams and going lap after lap after lap, and have avoided the chaos of a mass pit road entry. But I was talking about, I was racing a league and I was getting down, drivers went 3 wide. I was stuck in the middle and one driver turned me around sideways. And so I lost the draft and it put me a lap down and I was never able to recover.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen to anybody here this evening, as Nathan Dowd and Lionel Callisto will be one of the final 2 drivers to pit. In fact, they will be the final 2 drivers from that lead group to come in and pit, hopefully this time by. I would imagine so. Yes, here they come. Those Sector 5 teammates come in here on lap 102.
So the answer is about 42 laps is the maximum.
Well, and that's with a caution.
Andrew's best knowledge, yeah.
So I would say 40 if we go full green flag, which means these guys should be pitting around lap 140 to 143. As there was a small adjustment there from Nathan Dowd.
Nathan Dowd slid it through his pit box, had to throw it in reverse, and so he is going to lose some time because of that.
And we might have had a 2-tire taker here. Talon Smith might have taken 2 to get out ahead of these guys. He's going to get caught back up. I'm not sure what the advantage there is to taking 2 tires. I mean, that's going to be less grip and hung out on his own here, but I think that's what he did. His pit time, only 17.32 seconds. These other guys have, let's see, Dallas Pataska, 21.85, Robert Nash, 21.90. That is indicative to me of a 2-tire stop for Talon Smith.
Yeah, that looks like to me 2 tires and still a full tank of gas saved Talon Smith about 4 seconds. And so that was let's see how that move plays out. You know, we saw Hendricks earlier take 2 tires. It worked out for him. So we'll see how the Smith is going to go sideways.
What a catch!
Goodness. Wow. Barely able to save it. Was almost 3 wide there for a second. Coming off of 4, where we've seen drivers have problems before. He goes sideways and somehow managed to catch it. That was a good lucky break.
That
was probably more
was
skill than luck.
Well, no, I think that is a fair bit of luck. Here we go. A nominee for the Lucky Performance Lucky Break of the Day. You don't save a race car like this very often.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that is extremely impressive. We have seen so many drivers today. That is a trouble spot on this racetrack in super speedway racing. And when you start to go sideways out of turn number 4, I mean, there is a 95% chance that you're going around. No matter how much skill you have, it is normally so difficult to save that race car. And Talon Smith found a way, and that was extremely impressive.
So lap 105 now of 200, a little past halfway. And we've got cars all over the racetrack now. If we go to the blimp here, in fact, if we go to one of the scenic blimps, you might see cars It's hard to see, but if you can just make it out on the backstretch, there's packs of 5, of 1, of 2, of 3, of 4. This could show it as well if we bring the ticker down. There's just cars all over the racetrack, and there's actually one big group, and it looks like it's going to be around the leaders, and that's the biggest group on the racetrack that I can tell. You got about 5 or 6 lead lap cars, and then all these lap cars littering the racetrack that are just hanging out, trying to hang on.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing out of Talon Smith right now is, obviously took those 2 tires, we believe, and I think without that moment he would have been okay, but I think even with that moment, him going on that strategy alone, he had no drafting partners, and so it brought him right back to these leaders where he probably would have been if he would have just taken 4.
I do really wish we could talk to Talon Smith and hear just how the car is handling from his perspective. That would put the icing on the cake right now because he is out there on his own with 2 tires. The only driver that I see that has done so, and yeah, I'm looking over the pit times for everybody else, and it's all 21, 22, 23 second stops. So he's the only driver that I can see that took 2 tires on that round of pit stops, as Abate will take over the race lead over Robert Nash and that Talon Smith machine. I just don't know if it's going to hold up. You're asking for 80 laps out of the left sides. That's a long time.
Yeah, it definitely is a long time in this older tire model. And Talon Smith gets a great run here. Thinks about taking it 3 wide. Has to check up for Abate, though. Now he's going to take it to the inside. 3 wide, door-to-door, entering turn number 1. And what a great run for Talon Smith. This might bring him right back to the front. Yes, he's going to dive down in front of Robert Nash. And so Talon Smith able to zigzag his way back to the front.
Christian Challoner with help of Dallas Mataska down on the inside. They'll move forward here and get up to 3rd place in line. That moves Abate, and I think that's Wallet there a lap down along with them. That is Wallet. That moves them back just a little bit.
Yeah, Wallet now a lap down. That is going to take away the free pass from Brenton Foster if a caution was to fly. And Brenton Foster 3.1 seconds back of Jason Wallet. And so he'll have to try to get in front of him to take back that lucky dog position if we were to see the caution flag.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Start thinking about the NARL driver of the day because it is going to be a very fun vote, I feel like. We've got a few nominees for sure that would be worth it. Talon Smith might be one of them as he falls back now. Robert Nash could be one. He's been quiet. I think Christian Challoner, definitely. Dallas Mataska for sure with all those laps led. Got a few different ideas for sure.
I was going to say, I've got 2 drivers in my mind.
Well, good. I need you to pick 2.
Oh, you want me to say, right now?
No, not yet. No. We're going to hang on to it for
I was going to say. I was going to say
20 laps or so, but
that's why I was keeping it close to my chest.
Yes. Keep them quiet. keep them secret for now, but it's something to think about for sure as this race moves on into its latter stages. And we already talked about it, but to keep talking about it because it's just such a fun thing to talk about here at the Major Series, how different these races are. We just had, a month ago, IMSA classes here at Daytona. Prototypes, GT cars, all of the like, for 2.4 hours of racing on the Daytona road course. Next up, after this throwback 1987 Cup car race, we take the latest in GT3 machinery on iRacing and go to the National Park of Speed that is Road America. Then we take more classic NASCAR stock cars in the Gen 4 machines to the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the World 600. Then it's state-of-the-art IndyCar machines. The Dallara IR18 goes to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we continue on from there. It's just the different skill sets that are asked of these drivers will never cease to amaze me.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. I mean, I remember when you brought me on for the opening of this 2025 season for the Major Series, and I was like, oh, okay, so we're running IMSA. And then you were like, well, today. And then you were like, then we're running 87s at Daytona. and we're going GT3s to road course. We're going to end it off with super formulas in Japan. And I was like, what? And I thought it was so cool, the idea of the Major Series, just all these different disciplines of racing at all these different places around the world, and someone has to champion them all. And I just thought it's such the coolest concept that I think you can have in iRacing. And I love that iRacing allows for that creativity. You can just do really anything you want with these league races, and I think it has given the creative freedom to so many league owners out there to do cool stuff like this.
And the Major Series has been doing it for a long time here on the iRacing.com service. I recall my first introduction to Majors back in 2018, and they've been doing it for a long time then. So they've been doing it for a while here and doing it well. Here's a battle deep in the field. 12th and 13th, Kyle Hendricks and Ozzie Milwane. A worthy battle, one worth following, as we've got side by side, 3 wide down into the corner. Ray Partridge, Joey Haynes there, 3 wide for a second with the 5 of Austin O'Neill. This is kind of the mid-pack. This is the biggest pack I can find right now.
Yeah, this is the biggest pack going on right now. And so you'll see that Kyle Hendricks is up in it. And, you know, those green flag pit stops really shuffled up this field. Obviously, you've still got Nash, Challenger, Pataska, Smith, Abate, Norway, and Abramias at the front.
Oh, God,
spinner the 114. That's going to bring out your first caution in this pack. We were looking on with them, and big wreck on the back straightaway.
Big crash in the backstretch. That's the biggest one so far. And they're not done, I don't think.
Yeah, just as I was, you know, we went back to this pack. I was talking about the drivers up front to get back to Hendricks. And right before I could get back to him, they start to have a problem. It was the 114 right in the center of the corner. Luckily, Hendricks was on the outside, but everyone else on the inside lane, man, they pile in.
There was nowhere to go, and these cars do not stop on a dime. It was all Ross Banfield on the inside of Ozzie Milwane to start this off. You'll see right there just a little bit of contact. It was netcode even. And that just gets them all sideways and into this crash. And this is a big one as far as 1987 cars go.
And look at this moment right here. Oh my gosh, right there. I don't know who that was, but they barely escaped. Banfield was trying to gas it up and get spun around. And whoever it was made it out by a hair.
Watch this here. So Milwane got loose, goes up the racetrack, and then Banfield started to track up the racetrack, got tight, and gets run over by the 52 car, gets into the 114. The 114 settles down, the 777 settles down. Oh my gosh.
And look right here. This you see a lot of cars, just so much tire smoke, engine smoke, all of it. And then Banfield gasses it up. Oh my gosh, who is that barely made it out of the way?
That looks like the 12 maybe. No, it wasn't the 12. It was something similar though. We'll find out.
Was that Lionel Castillo?
It wasn't Callisto. This might show us better. He does gas it up, and that is the 18 of Drew Alond.
Wow.
So as pit stops take place, here's the onboard with Lalonde.
Oh my gosh! Oh, wow.
And one more onboard here. This will be with Milwane in that 112 machine, or 114 rather.
You see, he just gets loose here in the center, he stays up, but then you'll see that Banfield just comes up the track a little bit, has a little bit of net code, they make contact, and again, everyone in the bottom lane really nowhere to go.
So pit stops have transpired. Christian Challenger will keep the race lead over Robert Nash and Talon Smith. Christian Abate, they're in 4th. Robert Northway in 5th. And a long line of cars waiting to get a lap back. That was one heck of a green flag run. Had some green flag pit stops here at Daytona. Got a chunk of laps down and out of the way. Makes this about an 80-lap race to the end.
Yeah, I think after that caution there, Milwane and Foster took the wave around. You see them both right behind the pace car. So that will move them up into the lead lap. But still a healthy amount of cars on that lead lap I'm talking about, as it will actually see Milwane go a lap down there. He's still on pit road. But 23 cars, Andrew, on the lead lap.
Drew Lalonde, the first one a lap down, and he, of course, will not be eligible for a lucky dog, and at least wouldn't have been for that caution after getting contact there from the 777 of Ross Banfield. But will now be eligible for a lucky dog should he be in position. Ozzie Milwane also a lap down. I don't think he'll be out there anytime soon. Looks like he already used his fast repair. I think this will be it for Ozzie Milwane, somebody that was in the top 24 right there. So I believe Austin is Ozzie, I believe. So 6th place in the points, tied for 4th. That is going to be a huge blow.
Yeah, definitely going to be a huge blow in terms of the points for Milwane.
Got a long ways to go. We've been saying it all day. We're officially, though, into the back half now. And this is how they'll line up. Challoner, Nash, Smith, Abate, Pataska, your top 5. And actually, I think Northway technically is 5th. Pataska is just ahead of him for now. So Pataska's 6th. Then the 92 of Abramitis, the 2 of Callisto, and the 385 of Hendricks with the 7 of Dowd. Here we go. Back into the Geico restart zone we go. To get this race restarted, the Intimidator is back underway. Into turn number 3, first lap off the restart. Dallas Pataska on the outside, all on his own. Hendricks is back there, but a ways back and moving forward. Here's the onboard of Hendricks.
Hendricks mired back after those green flag pit stops. He was in about 14th. He was on the outside of Milwane when the incident occurred. He was able to skirt on by, and that moved him up into the top 10. So he's trying to fight to get back up here, and he's up already to 6th here, fighting on the outside of Christian Abate.
Talon Smith about to fall back to the helm of the, I guess, the wrath of the 385 machine. Still on board with Kyle Hendricks, as he works now on the 4th position. Mostly single file already. So what we saw earlier with that double file racing has gone completely to the wayside. These guys are single file again through the top 10, 20 even, I would say.
Yeah, single file again. We saw it earlier. A lot of these drivers were really calm after about lap 70 or so. Obviously had the break with the green flag pit stops and our caution just a moment ago. But all these drivers back single file, knowing we have 80 more laps as we look here along with Northway. He got on the outside there and fell quite a bit of ways back to 10th.
Northway gets in line there right ahead of the 7 of Dowd. That's good for the 10th position as Kevin Hill goes fastest at a 41.995. That is absolutely charging around this 2.5 mile super speedway.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, these engines just sound so good, and we got to hear them come up to speed on that green flag lap. We look along here with Kevin Hill battling with Lynn Kinchlow, and Kinchlow trying to come back after that incident we saw off of turn number 4 where he made big contact with the inside wall. Earlier, he was mired back in about 16th, and he was off the pace from the pack. He had a drafting partner, but they were already far back from the lead pack. And so he's trying to get back to the front because earlier we saw him battling up in the top 5 with your leader, Christian Challoner. And Challoner has been leading ever since about lap 75 to 80. So he's been out front for a long time now. So in the early portion of this race, we saw it be Hendricks, then it was Pataska, and now Andrew, it's been Challoner.
Such an incredible shot there right off of turn number 4. The field coming at you. Such a cool view. Challoner leads this race over Robert Nash and Dallas Pataska. 3 names you'll hear a lot this season, I feel like, along with Kyle Hendricks and Talon Smith there in 4th and 5th. Now, I believe the procedure is, and I could be wrong here, but I believe the procedure may be that triple digits are not running for points and double digits are. I think I've seen that somewhere around the league. I'm very, very free to be called incorrect. So if somebody knows that's watching and maybe knows that I'm wrong there, by all means, correct me, as Jason Wallet is in the wall again. This time he might not be able to continue on at speed. I see a lot of right side scrapes, but the right front looks to be okay.
Yeah, off the pace. And I'm interested to know that about the number situation, because I wondered why we had drivers that were running those triple numbers. And so we'll have to get you viewers the information for sure on that right now.
Again, feel free to call me wrong, because I'm still learning everything about this major series. So whether it's in the Majors Discord or in the YouTube chat or whatever, if you're listening in, by all means, correct me, because I'm still learning everything. We are still learning everything here at Pit Stop TV, and we're just glad to be here. Very much appreciative of this opportunity to be a part of this major series in 2025. We work here on lap 125 of 200. Single file throughout most of the field. And right now, it's very much just biding our time. As a field, as a collective, you've just got to get through the race. We've talked about it a lot so far this evening, but it rings true until the end. You've just got to get through these laps. Also, I find it fun that we've got one of each manufacturer in the top 4. We've got a Ford leading, a Buick sitting in 2nd, a Chevrolet in 3rd, and a Pontiac in 4th.
Well, all of these cars are so cool here tonight, and I think you and me were discussing it before this race, and I really got to say, I think my favorite has always been the Monte Carlo.
I have become a bit of a Ford guy. That's why you see Ford Mustangs usually for the thumbnails. In this case, it was a Thunderbird painted up by Cody Williams Design. So I'm a Ford guy as far as race cars. I think that's because I'm a Joey Logano fan, but I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. It's just what I've gravitated towards. But if I had to pick a car here that I like the most, it would be between the Buick or the Pontiac. I don't know why. Those two just look so old school NASCAR to me.
I mean, the Pontiac is definitely old school. That long, elongated hood, the setback in the cabin where the race car driver would sit, and it's definitely different for sure. You'll see Talon Smith run that Pontiac there in that number pink machine. That's
number pink.
It might as well be. We can barely see the numbers, but if you just say the pink car, you'll know it's Talon Smith. But all these drivers come out here. I got to say, I'm a Ford guy too, but I just love the boxy style of this old Chevy.
Fair enough. Well, 127 laps complete now. And let's search around a little bit. Let's look around the field because we've got this lead pack of 14 cars or so, from Challoner down through O'Neill in the 5 car down in 14th spot. But then you got to fall back to Ray Partridge in the 8 machine for the next group of cars, along with the 0-3 of Jason Lottridge. So Partridge and Lottridge side by side. That doesn't get confusing at all. And then here comes a 3 wide with Brian Barnes on the inside, maybe even 4.
Almost 4 wide there for a moment. You saw that pack of drivers led by Lottridge trying to go around that of Ray Partridge, and they will make it, but they get split up just a little bit. They'll have to find a way to get back single file to continue to make hay on this lead pack, but they are currently 2 by 2 at the moment, and so definitely slowing each other up right now.
On board with Brian Barnes. And he will leave the 0-3 in his dust. That's Jason Lottridge in the 0-3. Falling back now behind Nick Kuhn, and a change to the race lead out front. Robert Nash has decided to go by Christian Challoner, brings Dallas Pataska along with, and so the same old status quo that was out front has changed.
Yeah, Challoner gets, but doesn't get moved there. He just has to go to the outside because Nash peeks to the inside and pulls Pataska on through. We'll take a look at the replay for this lead change. You see Challoner here off of turn number 4. And yeah, a great run here for Nash. Goes to the inside, and there the 24 of Pataska going to follow him right on through. 2 cars better than 1 in terms of drafting, so they power on through by the inside.
I think Christian got a little bit loose. Yeah, he did.
I thought I saw that. I didn't want to quite say it because it was just the tiniest little moment. But that was enough.
That's enough to unseat the race lead and bring Challoner back to 3rd position. A small moment, but it's, as we say, just enough. We've got a secondary pack now forming here. We've broken into a 6-car breakaway with Nash, Pataska, Challoner, Smith, Abate, and Abramitis. Northway leads the second pack, along with Ryan Steele and Lionel Callisto, and Nathan Dowd. And then there's Kevin Hill and Kyle Hendricks, along with Lynn Kinchlow and Austin O'Neill. So multiple packs starting to form as this race breaks up and sets in now. You've had some time now for these guys. They obviously brought their open setups to the race and whatnot, but you've had some time to adjust. You've had some time on these pit stops to make small adjustments to the spoiler angle or the air pressure or what have you. Maybe these guys out front have found something. Maybe they're more comfortable with what they've got now because they are truly breaking away from the rest of the field who seems to be struggling just a little bit.
Yeah, those drivers up front continue to surge forward. I mean, these are the drivers up in the front in these top 6 that have been the drivers of the day. I mean, they've been up front this entire night, and they're going to be the ones I think that we're going to see up front here at the finish, because especially when we get so strung out like this, it gets to where, you know, this would be the end of it. These drivers up here, and this is something we used to see back in the day in this 1987 era, is this type of racing, this single file, strung out pack by pack by pack. And so these guys have just done it the best.
As we've got 67 to go this next time by, I want to give a shout out to the race control for this evening's event. Through the 3 splits, we've got Brandon Hageman, Chris Sawalich, and Garen Bratton all helping out and doing their part for the major series. As here's the pit stop for Jason Lottridge. I wonder, he only ran 17 laps.
That's interesting.
I'm confused as to why he just pitted.
I am as well.
Well, out front, things hold steady.
I gotta say, Robert Northway starting to catch up in that second pack. They've gotten all single filed out, and they're starting to catch back up to this lead pack.
Here's the onboard with Northway. Some blinking going on there for Abramitis.
Now look at that speed. He gets down the back straightaway. See Abramitis peeking out of line, trying to get some air to that radiator. Again, you got to make sure that engine stays cool.
Talked about it earlier, but we'll talk about it again. Weather conditions holding steady. 67.7 degrees in the air, 83 degrees on track. Partly cloudy now. It was mostly cloudy and even foggy at one point during practice. But things have calmed down as this now lead group turns into 10 cars strong. About a second apart between first and 10th. Then back to Kevin Hill and Austin O'Neill, along with Kyle Hendricks. These guys run 13th. They're 11th, 12th, and 13th. Lynn Kinchlow right behind at 14th, and Kinchlow gets the wall.
Yeah, so Kendricks and Kinchlow have been reunited, but not back up at the front, back in 13th and 14th. And so we saw earlier Kyle Hendricks was up, had made it back up to the front after the green flag pit stops, but now is dropped farther back.
Ooh, a slight Bob Levy out of the 96 car there through turn 3, fighting the wheel just a little bit. What I love about this 96 car is the white accents on the gloves. It's not fully white gloves, but you can still see those hands moving around there through the windshield. So when we punch in, you can see what his hands are doing and just how much he's fighting the race car. It's not a terrible amount, but every once in a while you see a bobble and you see those hands move back and forth.
I love to go on my camera and look at the view from the cockpit and just see how much he's moving, even down the straightaways. I mean, it is just crazy to see how much movement they are putting into this wheel, and you can see him just sawing on it through turns 3 and 4. Right here, you can see his hands just going back and forth, back and forth.
And so things calmed down.
So weird. We saw, it was so weird, Andrew. We saw such big ounces of aggression back from lap 55 to lap 65, and then everyone was like, wait, let's calm down. And ever since that point at lap 70, I mean, we had obviously the incident with Milwain on the back straightaway. That was really just a racing incident for Milwain getting loose. But, I mean, besides that incident, these drivers have been so calm.
This has been a very calm run. I don't know what got into these guys to calm things down. I'm not complaining. I want to say that. I like this green flag racing. This long green flag run that we've had now for 24, 25 laps has been very nice to see. And the run before it was even better. But as the field checks up there big time into turn 1, I don't know what changed, but something changed around that lap 60 moment where we had that, I think one of the final crashes, because we went 40 or so laps from the lap 60 caution.
Well, it was after the caution that one of those we obviously had the caution for Milwain, but it was the one before that. Right before that, those drivers were aggressive. They were double file for laps on end. And then about 10 laps later, they all single filed out. And since then, that's how we've been.
Well, it's about that time to talk about the driver of the day, as we've got one car pitting. Brenton Foster in the 11.
He finally got back to the lead lap. This is probably going to take him off of that lead lap here. Yeah. And I'm looking at him right now, and he's run 40 laps, and this is because he took the wave around last caution around, so he is at the end of his fuel mileage.
Another driver in that same scenario, James Jones, I believe, took a wave around, and he's got that left front hiked way up in the air.
Yeah, that's not really because of iRacing. That's because he's carrying so much speed here on the exit that it's lifting that left front. That's something that you see in dirt racing normally.
Well, I wonder how much of that is that and how much of it is the setup, because we don't get all of the setup transmitted, setup data, so it'll look a little bit funny. We get where the body is, but the tires don't always fall into where they should be. So the body might actually be raised that high up in the setup for whatever reason.
I think it is actually, because you saw it off the exit of 4 there, but I also want to say, I think for whatever reason that I'm seeing with these 87s, whatever it is, like you can see the right front there is off the ground. It has been that way for like all of the night with all of these cars. So some of that is just because iRacing is not getting on the ground, but I agree with what you said about where that left front might be positioned within the setup.
Yeah, and I think it's setup data, basically, is we're not getting the data of where the tire would actually fall down to. We're getting the data physically of where the body would be. But it makes it look like the tires are in the air when realistically they kind of release down onto the track, obviously, and the body has so much, I think it's rebound. I think that it pushes the tire down onto the ground and the body up in the air, and what that does is takes air off of the rear spoiler. More or less. So it's like the 90s, late 90s, when they were tucking the rear spoiler so far out of the air that they were low riding down the back end of the car. But anyhow, it's that time to talk about driver of the day. We've got some really good nominees, really good opportunities to nominate a handful of drivers here. I will give you the floor here, Scott, to nominate your first, and then I'll go because I want to see who you've got.
My first one is definitely Dallas Pataska. He has not dropped out of the top 5 all race long. We've completed 143 laps of this race. He's been in the top 5 for all of them. He's been so consistent. I think he's a driver that is going to be there at the end.
That's a really good pick, and if you didn't pick him, I would have. That is a solid pick, I gotta say. I'm going to fall back and grab... I think I'm going to take Robert Northway, just because of how much we've seen of him today. Front, back, all over the place, and he's made an impact in this race. And I think he's going to make a larger impact in this race as we go on. I've got a trick up my sleeve maybe for this next one, depending on who you pick.
Well, he was my second one, actually. And since you picked him, I'm going to go to Talon Smith. Obviously, him and Kyle Hendricks got together early on in this race. Smith had to use his fast repair, but even with that incident, if you take out when he was getting damage repair and all that, he's also been consistently within the top 5 to top 7 all night long. He's been aggressive when he needs to be, and he's shown us that he's able to make that move when necessary. I think he's another one of those drivers that when it comes to the end of this race, if he needs to make the move for the win, he will.
And my second pick and the fourth nominee here is going to have to be Christian Challoner, who's led a bunch of laps himself. 33 laps led for that driver. Started 6th, currently 4th. Has been as low as 33rd spot at one point in time, but has been all over this field and mostly out front in that number 1 car. It's been a lot of fun to watch so far today, and will be a lot of fun to watch, I think, as the rest of the day goes on. That vote will go live over on YouTube now, so the driver of the day conversation is opening up, and for the next 54 laps, you can vote on who you believe is the driver of the day here for the Major Series at Daytona for the Intimidator event. There's 4 great opportunities to vote. Again, I'll run through those. Talon Smith, Dallas Pataska, Robert Northway, and Christian Challoner. As we just nominated them, those are your 4 opportunities. You can vote for driver of the day, and whoever wins, they'll pop up here in this box, whether it's Christian Challoner, or if I scroll down here to find Talon Smith, or if it ends up being the 24 of Dallas Pataska, maybe even the 46 of Robert Northway. Those are your options. Make sure to vote as things get mixing up here in the front.
And mixed up, you see right there, Pataska gets in front of Talon Smith. And so a little bit of a switch for position between 2nd and 3rd. But Robert Nash continues to lead out front. And so we've seen a lot of different leaders today. Obviously, we saw earlier, that it was, It was Hendricks out front earlier. Then we saw it was Pataska for quite a while. Then it was Challoner, and now it has been Robert Nash. So we've seen this race lead continue to flip, and when we had these calm moments, we've seen all these drivers content to stay where they're at. and that's left Robert Nash out front.
Watching other cars come out of the pit lane that have had to pit. Mostly guys that stayed out under that last caution to get a lap back. They'll all have to pit now and end up falling back down to be their laps or lap down. And we've seen, as we've been talking about driver of the day, that we've passed up a couple of other lap cars throughout this run. But it has been calm out front inside your top 10, spread out by about a second and change, about 1.2 seconds total between Nash and Dowd. And funny enough, those two are tied with Vincent Leherbier as the point leaders coming into today. I'm not sure how we've managed that, to have them each at different ends of the top 10, but between Nash out front in first, Dowd in 10th, and then Leherbier in 24th. Those are your 3 points leaders coming into today, and certainly it will not be a tie leaving this afternoon.
Yeah, Leherbier, one of those drivers that had some trouble early on and has not quite been able to recover. He's 2 laps down, back in that 24th spot. And then Nathan Dowd, he ran in the top 5 about the first portion of this race, first 80 laps or so. After that green flag pit stop, he was cycled back to around the top 10. He sits 10th right now. And then you just mentioned, obviously, Nash has been up front as well all day long and is leading currently.
And what a view this is for Robert Nash, to be looking out front and see nothing but clean racetrack. Granted, he's got some lap cars up there that he's got to look at right now, but this is where you want to be, leading the way, leading the train of cars if possible. You've got your opportunity to defend, and if we start to break down how these guys are going to get to the end of this race, they're going to have to pit in about 5 laps. There is going to be a very interesting set of strategy here to the end. I think it's fuel save mode. You've got to be. And if if you're a driver in this series right now, a driver in the race, you've been thinking about it because you know how this race is going to work out if it goes green. If it goes green, Scott, we've got about 4 or 5 laps till these guys have to pit. Maybe a little bit more. They are going to be about 2 laps shy of making it a one-stop race from here.
Yeah, that is extremely possible to be able to save. So I imagine that will be the call on everybody's mind, because if we somehow go caution-free to the end of this race, or at least within to the last 5 laps or so, you will have wanted for that to be your last pit stop if you want to have a shot at this win at the end of the race. And so definitely be looking here for this to be the last green flag pit stop for these drivers.
And they're going to have to get to about lap 160, so they've got about 7 laps to go to get there. Otherwise, they're going to have to save in that last run to the end, so maybe a lap 158, 159, and maybe make it to the end from there. It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. Fuel saving will be the talk of the day today.
It's going to be close for them to make it regularly, but I think over the course of 40 laps, being able to save 2 is definitely possible. You see here the 777 of Ross Banfield just came into the pit lane. He was getting low on fuel, so he goes 1 lap down for coming into the lane.
Boy, it's going to be close for these guys. Just running it through my head another time or two. This is going to be on the edge of what they can do. It's either going to spark a short fill at some point, or these guys have got to save a bunch of fuel.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to save fuel. I mean, I think that's the smart call, especially if somehow we go caution-free. I think that's the move you're going to want to make. As we see drivers coming to pit lane here, Robert Nash, Pataska. Let's see.
If they're pitting now, they know they can't make it.
Oh, you're right.
So Nash, Pataska, Challoner, Northway, Abate, all come in. If they pit now, they know they can't make it. It's going to be a small selection of drivers that can, if anybody. And you see right sides going on here for your leaders. Will they do lefts as well? I think so. Because then you can come in for a splash and go. Yeah, left side's going on.
They're going to have to go for a splash and
Here
go
comes Talon
real
Smith.
quickly there. Talon Smith coming into the box.
All
and so, yeah,
alone.
I'm really surprised to see these drivers come in as early as they did, because I really think that it was possible. I wouldn't be surprised if we see someone try it.
If anybody, it would be this bunch right here. Tom Abramitis, Lionel Callisto, Nathan Dowd, Kevin Hill. They are the only drivers left on the racetrack now that have not pitted. Oh, and Kyle Hendricks, actually. Hendricks is not yet pitted. So your top 5 on the scoring ticker have yet to come in. Will they come in now? Here comes Abramitis.
Abramitis coming in, so he's not going to try to stretch the fuel mileage question. Will it be Dowd? Will it be Hill? Will Kyle Hendricks try to stay out? No, Hendricks will come into the pit lane this time, as well as Kevin Hill. So drivers continue to file here to the pit lane.
These drivers, I don't think, expected this when the green flag dropped for the last run. I don't think this was expected at all. And by the way, Talon Smith, again, 2 tires and fuel. He's back out there ahead of the field. That's not a terrible call, I feel like.
I hope he got 4 the last time around.
Yeah, I would hope so as well. But here we go. Pit stops maybe for Dowd? No. Callisto and Dowd seem to be going for it. Could this be the strategy call that wins this race?
I like it. I really do. I mean, you get to this next lap, they're going to have to save 2 laps. And again, no green-white checkers. There are no overtime opportunities. We will go to lap 200 no matter what. Nothing over. So I like this call. I really do. I'm surprised more drivers didn't try it.
Howie is skeptical, but I believe if they get to lap 159, which they're doing here, or about to, I think they can just about save a pit stop. I think they're coming in this time as Talon Smith goes on by on the outside. Here comes Callisto. Here comes Dowd. I think this is right on the edge. I think they might be able to do it with enough fuel saving.
Here's the key, Andrew. They have to stay together. They both have to be clean here into their boxes, and the importance is they have to stay together. You see Callisto almost sliding through the box, barely gets into it. Dowd perfectly in his box, a little bit slow there and conservative, but he did it. But the important thing is they have to get off pit road here together and stay together in the draft.
They'll take 4 tires and get back on the racetrack. There's the Pontiac of Talon Smith leading the race. Christian Abate in second. Gonna run him down. Nathan Dowd, Lionel Callisto off the pit lane. Here they go. Slow out of the box. But they can be. They've just got to save fuel now. They're going to hope to get back into that group, and they're not going to. So they lost time.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. They lost time, but if their plan works, they will not come back to pit road. Everyone else will have to.
Going to be close.
So I really like this call. I really do. I like the gamble. You know, Nathan Dowd was running back in the top 10. A good spot for him. I like the call even better for Callisto. Callisto was running outside of the top 10 around the mid-pack or so, and so he wasn't going to be able to shuffle himself to the front if he hadn't already. And so I like doing what the leaders didn't.
The concern is
for us too.
Yeah, the concern though is a caution throws the entire thing out the window, and you might get trapped back in traffic. So it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other. It's definitely pros and cons for sure. This is going to be a very interesting race to the end.
I mean, it's definitely more risk than it might be reward. But again, it's that factor of, you know, I'm running okay tonight. I'm running mid-pack. If a caution comes out, well, I'll stay mid-pack. If we don't, well, then I'm going to be right where I was if we didn't have it. So I like the optimism.
Those 2 cars, by the way, cycle out to 8th and 9th on the racetrack. They pick up Tom Abramitis. So they are a 3-car group. The 2, the 7, and the 92. They run 8th, 9th, and 10th. Kevin Hill runs 11th with Kyle Hendricks and Lynn Kinchler right behind. And our leaders are going at it, side by side, racing.
They're going at it. They cross over 400 miles complete in this race. Less than 100 miles to go now, and Talon Smith continues to hang himself out front. Dallas Pataska trying to battle on the outside. He had Challoner there with him for a moment, but he's back on the inside, and so Smith continuing to move around. That's going to pull Pataska here forward, and they're all going to go single file yet again.
So Talon Smith leading the driver of the day vote and leading the race now. He has been electric to watch. Running second, that's Dallas Pataska. We'll see him Thursday night in the Sim Auto Racing Association Pierce Fleet Service Super Series. That's super late models on short tracks. We don't know where we're going on Thursday. It's a mystery round. We don't know the track yet. We just know that we're going racing on Thursday evening. We'll find out when we get there of exactly where we're racing. And again, that's this Thursday here on Pit Stop TV. You can see Dallas Pataska go short track racing. On the way there, we also, I think you were about to say it, we're also going to Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park on Tuesday. And Wednesday, we're headed to Homestead Miami Speedway for the SimRap Market Series. So the BRB Racing League Butt Kicker Cup Series, the SimRap Market Series, and the Sarah Pierce Fleet Service Super Series. The three main leagues that we cover here on Pit Stop TV, all in action this coming week. You can follow along everywhere on Pit Stop TV social media platforms down below.
Yeah, you can catch us at pitstoptv.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and of course X. You'll catch all the action, updates, and when we are going live next on all of our social media platforms. We got some great stuff coming to you. Great racing action here with the Majors Series. Under 100 miles left, and they continue to battle it out single file at the moment.
So far this evening, 4 cautions for 9 laps, 31 lead changes, and I think we're going to pump each of those numbers up by the end of this race, I got to be honest.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, we've seen 31 lead changes, and that's definitely a lot for saying how long we've had a lot of these leaders continue to stay out front. And I think definitely as we get near here to the end, under 35 laps to go, we're going to see that those numbers continue to pump up like you said.
Talon Smith still leading. Dallas Pataska runs second. Then Christian Abate in third. Christian Challoner in fourth. Robert Nash in fifth. We go on board here with Robert Nash. And whoa, Talon Smith out wide. Did he get loose?
Think he did. That's a huge problem for Talon Smith. One of the biggest mistakes he's made all day. That's going to move him back here maybe to 6th, maybe to 7th behind Ryan Steele. And he'll be able to fall in line here right behind Steele. So Smith goes all the way from the lead back to 7th.
We'll get a look back at it here for Talon Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Just a tiny moment. I maybe brushed the wall there barely with the right rear quarter panel. I swore I might have seen some sparks, but really a great save by him. I mean, it didn't look like much, but it really is a lot in these 87s. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, he got loose a second time right next to the wall. That was a great save.
And he was buried off in the corner already, so that's a really odd place for the car to get loose. Now they're amongst some lap traffic there with the 35 on the outside, the 80 there as well. We stay on board with Talon Smith in the 680 or 658 car. Trying to get back up to the outside lane, will finally do so.
And Timothy Klaus got really close to Talon Smith there. That was a bit of a close one coming off the exit of 2. But these leaders continue to be single file. It's these top 7, and then it's 10 seconds back to Tom Abromaitis leading Lionel Castillo and Nathan Dowd, your 2 drivers trying to make it here on that last pit stop being their last in this race. And I've got to say, Andrew, it's perfect because I don't even think they could have done it just the 2 of them, or at least not both of them, because one of them would have been using more fuel to lead the lane out front. but them being led by Abromaitis, they can both save fuel.
And the 68 car there of, who is that? It is Brian McGreevy. They're able to use to save fuel as well. So each of these two cars, I think you're right, it's going to help them.
The more I look at it, the more that they're doing,
they're
more
shutting
I
off.
like
Look at the
strategy.
RPMs. The RPMs went way down there into the corner. That was clutch in. So they are putting the clutch in the corners. They know what they're trying to do. They're trying to save all the fuel they can to make the distance. Watch the RPMs here into turn number 1.
Listen on board.
That number drops all the way down into the 4,000s when they put the clutch in. It's
that
not for
doesn't
very
seem-
long.
I was going to say, it's not for very long. It doesn't seem like very much, but when you're trying to save just 2 laps, you're trying to keep as much speed in the car as you can, and those just few precious, maybe second and a half of those RPMs dropping down just like it did saves a little bit of fuel every time.
Impressive stuff here from these guys, I gotta say. I hope it works out for them.
I really do too. I like the move. I like the call. It's gutsy, it's wild, and it's working out as of now. Talon Smith working his way back up through this top 7 after his mistake through 3 and 4. He got past Ryan Steele and Robert Northway in one go on the end. I just love the way Talon Smith is able to move through this field. Even though he has not been farther back than 5th all day long, he has proven to us time and time again that he knows how to make moves.
Talon Smith on the outside, falling back now. He was trying to go forward. Got by a couple of cars doing so.
Yeah, he tried to find a hole, and he was able to with Northway, but a gap didn't open up between Challoner and Abate quick enough. And so you see that Talon Smith had a great run there with the draft down the back straightaway, but here through the corners, all out on his lonesome, will lose a bit of time. But this is where he's had the most speed. He's going to catch the draft here for a second from Pataska. That might open the door here into turn 1, a hole between Abate and Challoner.
Does Pataska want them to be side by side? He keeps moving up.
I mean, he might, but he's not going to go out on his lonesome. So really, if Talon is dragging back Christian Abate and Challoner, it's going to drag back Pataska as well.
Big run here for Talon Smith. Gonna drive back to the outside of Christian Abate.
Man, he's just able to make it work. I have not seen anyone else make moves like he does. He hung on that outside the entirety of those 2 laps and worked his way from 5th all the way to 2nd, now battling side by side for the lead.
A little bit of side draft there on Pataska, and he clears the 24 car. Wow.
I mean, he just commanded that. I mean, and no one, and again, you know, Pataska, Abate, all of them might not be being the most aggressive right now because we've still got just over 25 laps to go. But when Talon decided to go, he went from 7th to the front.
And that is why he's up for driver of the day. And so far,
he's my pick to win the race.
Hey, maybe. So far, it's tied, by the way, between our 2 race leaders, Talon Smith and Dallas Pataska. They lead this race. They lead the driver of the day vote. They're tied for it. Robert Northway has himself a vote. This is really good stuff, and this is going to be a really good race coming down these last 25 laps or so. 27 to go the last time by. Want to check in with some of the other fields. I guess not fields, but babbles around the field. Behind this lead pack, we've talked about it before, we'll talk about it again, Tom Abromaitis and Lionel Callisto, along with Nathan Dowd. They run 8th, 9th, and 10th here, along with a couple of lapped cars. Further back, Kevin Hill and Lynn Kinchlow run with Kyle Hendricks. This is 11th, 12th, and 13th. Hendricks has been a force today, but has quieted down in this back half of the race. Behind them, Brenton Foster is on the lead lap, along with Nick Kuhn and Brian Barnes. And Ray Partridge. Now, Foster will have to pit again. We know that, but it may still even out that he ends up on the lead lap. So what a recovery for him. Might that be a lucky break of the day for him?
It definitely. He went 2 laps down on very early in this race. He was able to get one of them back by the lucky dog and then the other with the wave around. And it's put him off cycle from a lot of others, but he has been able to manage it. And I think by the end of this race, he will be on the lead lap and will be able to recover from this day. I also want to make a check on myself. I believe Talon Smith is my pick to be the winner if the fuel strategy does not work for Callisto and Dowd.
25 laps to go. Talon Smith continues to lead here at Daytona.
Oh, huge news in terms of the points. 7 laps ago, Vincent Laherbier has checked out of this race. He went from running about the 20th position back to now 32nd. So now he's going to go from second in points, and I think he's going to take a significant drop.
It's going to be huge. My question to those who are familiar with the Major Series, and of course we're still learning things here, is there a drop race? Is there a drop week these guys can use? Because if so, this might be it for Laherbier.
Yeah, I mean, 32nd is not a lot of points as compared to you got Robert Nash running here in 5th. You got Pataska, who is in 4th in points. He's running right now obviously out in 2nd. And then who else did we talk about? Nathan Dowd currently running 10th. And so a lot of these drivers that are up at the top having good days, all except Laherbier.
A wild card in this group up front. We've talked a lot about Talon Smith and Dallas Pataska, Christian Challenger, and Robert Nash. I feel like Christian Abate all day long has been kind of a wild card underdog in this group. He runs in 3rd place. He's been all over the racetrack as far as high and low, as high as 1st, as low as 21st. Started 18th position, but runs up here in 3rd place. 6 laps led for him. I wonder, as these laps wind down, if he can position himself in order to take this win away. Something to talk about.
Yeah, and I want to say, for Christian Abate, definitely I agree with what you said out of this front group. But he's 17th in points right now, and when I say 17th, it really basically means he's in 6th, because after our first race, everyone got paid out the same amount of points, but no prior finishes. So basically, 1, 2, and 3 are all tied for 1st. 4, 5, and 6 are all tied for 2nd. So it goes back to, you see Christian Abate there on your right side in 17th, but basically as the points stand right now, he's tied for 6th. So a great day here would boost him up significantly as well.
That's a good way to look at it. That is a really positive way to look at it. If you're Christian Abate, he would have finished 6th at Daytona in the 2.4. So that's a good way to look at this. It looks like it's disaster zone for Christian Abate right now, being down at 17th spot, like he's way out of it, but realistically, no. He is very much still alive, even though we're only 1 race in. I like that way of thinking.
Yeah, I noticed it earlier when I was looking at it, because I was like, you were like, I know that we ran the 3 sessions last time. That's what we're going to continue to keep running, just having so many drivers here in this major series. And so with the North American points being run up to all together with 3 different sessions, we've only run 1. They're all tied.
Well, those are the 3 classes from Daytona in the top split.
Yeah.
So they each have a win because they were each in the 3 different classes, not the 3 different sessions. The sessions, top split, middle split, and bottom split are paid out at different points. But the 3 classes in the same race were all paid out the same. As here we go. Lap traffic going to influence the leaders now with 20 laps to go.
I think that was one of those things where you had when you were in 5th grade where your math teacher is like, you did it wrong, but you got the right answer. And I think that was that moment for me.
Here we go. This is going to be Harry working down the backstretch. Lap traffic in the way of Talon Smith and company. He's going to try and work the inside lane. No dice there. Has to back out of it. And he's got dirty air for the first time in, 10 laps or so?
Yeah, but here, Talon Smith, one of those drivers we knows how to work around cars for sure. Pit stops. Some of those drivers peeling off early. They get down to the bottom. That's Christian Abate. Let's see, that's Challenger. I I know that's the Northway, and I'm trying to see who that fourth car
Robert
is.
Nash.
Nash. So 4 of them peel off. We've seen a packs of 4 continue to pit here tonight, and they're cutting it right in half.
Oh, a couple of cars in the wall there. Teammates from Fusion Racing. No caution.
Bodywork fly down to the bottom, down to the apron. No one goes sideways, no one out on track. And so they keep it green here for now.
Pataska trapped up top. Does he want to pit here? No, not yet. He stays out. Ryan Steele along with him.
Yeah, they've got Steele, but Steele's a little bit back. So all of those top 7, 4 of them pitted. And so, you know, Smith and Pataska have really been left out here right now. Ryan Steele has been riding along with them. He's been back in that pack, but hasn't been a crazy huge factor. So this has really left Smith and Pataska all out on their lonesome.
Do they pit this lap? When do they pit? Yeah, here they come. Here comes Pataska at least. He wants to come in alone.
That's an interesting call. Maybe he thinks he might cycle out with the rest of them. I'm not sure, but I never liked the idea of pitting alone at a super speedway.
Well, let's see. So Abate took, it looks like, 2 in fuel, along with Nash and Northway and Challenger. 2 and a little bit of fuel.
Let's see if Pataska will take 2 here, because if he takes 4, it'll be done for sure.
I'm surprised he's taking any tires. This is a gas and go situation. We're talking about a few laps.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's no chance of green-white checkers. You're racing to lap 200. I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah, me as well. And I'm surprised to see Talon Smith out here on his lonesome as well, because he is definitely losing time right now. This is a weird call.
Smith, I think, is hanging on for a caution.
I don't think he's going to get it.
I wouldn't say that with 15 to go. Oh, man, I would not say that at all. Here's Pataska getting passed up.
Everybody's so spread out. Obviously, anything can happen between these packs, but it's less likely than you would see in one big pack.
Pataska is getting passed up big time. He's trying to track the Northway now. Northway, that car ahead. Partridge and Kuhn come in. That's the gap between Pataska and Northway. Out of second. He can make that up.
He can. He's going to have his foot to the floor right now. No need for him to save any gas at all. Surprised he didn't try to sniff a draft off that lap car for at least a second. But as long as he stays within a second here, he's going to get that draft back, and I think he will. So it does end up working out for Pataska, getting back to the back of these front cars. He goes past Brenton Foster here, who is 1 lap down after pitting about 7 laps ago. But he is going to be able to catch back up with these leaders as they were earlier. Let's not forget, Talon Smith is still out there, as well as Ryan Steele, and Callisto and Dowd. They don't plan on coming into the pit lane.
Let's listen in with Callisto and Dowd and see if they're still saving all that fuel.
I love this. I love that there's so many different strategies going on right now. I'm excited.
That number drops back down to 5,000. They're still putting the clutch in.
I love this. I mean, I love the different strategies from a lot of these different drivers. You know, we see Talon Smith staying out right now. You saw Pataska pit on his own, able to catch up with those earlier leaders like Nash, Northway, Abate, and Challenger. And then obviously we've got my favorites right now, Callisto and Dowd, making a gutsy call to stay out and make it a one-stop race.
Then you have these guys starting to battle as this race runs out of laps. Dallas Pataska, Robert Nash, Christian Challenger, Robert Northway, and Christian Abate, they believe they're fighting for the win.
You saw Challenger get a little bit sideways there out of turn 2, so they are starting to push, like you mentioned. Pataska able to work to the outside to get back up through this pack, and yes, this is a possible battle for the lead. Let's not forget, Smith and Steele have not come to the pit lane, and Callisto and Dowd are trying to stay out on what they have. They've been saving fuel this entire run, and with them saving fuel, that does mean here that this pack will catch them faster in terms of Robert Nash and Pataska.
Also still on the racetrack, Kevin Hill, Lynn Kinchlow, and Kyle Hendricks. They have all stayed out to this point in time. They're short. They're not going to make it on fuel. They've got to pit, but they have not yet pitted. And actually, it's going to be close. Kevin Hill, if he's been saving, might be able to make it, but he's not in draft. So I doubt he's got enough. I think he's trying to play the game of one more pit stop, but I think he's trying to wait on a caution just like Talon Smith and Ryan Steele.
Yeah, he's 14 seconds back from Nathan Dowd, and so definitely not a chance for him to be able to get back to them at all with them playing that strategy. Luckily, now Talon Smith has been able to find some drafting partners in front of him, and so he's been able to now maybe save a little bit of fuel or at least gain back some of that time that he lost.
Per the YouTube chat, Howie has been very, very active in the YouTube chat this evening. We appreciate that. Howie says that Talon is looking for a tire advantage. The 1987 Cup Car tires are extremely unusual. They peak at very specific times and then get tight again. That is all per Howie in the YouTube chat. Something to keep in mind, that Talon Smith might be playing the tire game and waiting for the right time to pit and then go back out there. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means. We're going to learn, though, in these next 10 laps.
Well, I imagine it's just with the chemical makeup of these tires that they ran back in 87 and that iRacing has compounded into this model. I imagine that it's the longer these tires run, usually the better that they get. When you strap on those new sets of tires, when he says tighter, I imagine he means that they start cooler and they take so long to soften up and gain grip that the car drives so drastically different.
What I do know is these used to be bias ply tires, and I believe all tires in iRacing are modeled after radials. So I don't know how perfectly accurate the tires are, and that's a difficult thing to do, to model bias ply tires from the 80s. I know there's that difference. I know they aren't perfectly accurate to what they used to run, but again, how are you going to model a tire from the 80s? You don't have that data.
Well, you don't have that data, and it's one of those things that is so intricate about iRacing. The more I think about the iRacing server as its own deal, so many things are happening behind the scenes in the coding of this simulator itself. It is so impressive how many things are happening. I mean, you think about any video games you play at home, I can almost guarantee you that iRacing is running even more things behind the scenes to make this one of the most accurate and widely available simulators in the world. And it is truly impressive to see how they have brought things from the real world into the sim and into your home, even with something as hard as this bias ply tire.
Lynn Kinchlow comes into the pit lane finally. 37 laps run there. And Talon Smith into the pits.
Talon Smith finally diving down into the pits. He landed 39 laps, almost to the end of his fuel run. So it shows you how short these drivers would have been when they made a pit stop earlier. They're about 6 laps short of fuel. And so he finally makes the stop clean into his box. Let's see if he takes fuel and tires as he's going to at least take right sides. I imagine that's all he will take here. Yes, he will get them and go. So he gets out of there clean and green. And so this leaves Ryan Steele, only car at least up front, not yet to pit. And then it's Castillo and Dowd. Excuse me, Callisto.
6 laps to go for Ryan Steele, who leads this race now on his own. He's not going to have enough fuel to go to the end. Talon Smith going to be swallowed up by that group, and whoa, Challenger loses the nose for a second. Something just happened big time down the backstretch. I think there was contact to the back end of Talon Smith because Talon Smith has no rear bumper. But Smith has got brand new tires.
Yeah, big problem here. We're not sure what happened between all of these drivers.
Look at
and so you'll
Smith.
see Talon's, yeah, he was able to make the run there. Puts it 3 wide of the middle. Lap car of Nick Kuhn on the outside. That slowed his advances. But Talon Smith trying to make his way up through this pack. And look at how fast he is.
Now I know how he was meaning. He's got brand new tires here at the end of the run. He can make these moves, whereas these guys all have worn out tires. Now I know what you meant, Howie. I understand. What an advantage it is. He's just going to drive around the outside.
Yep, he's going to go right around Christian Abate and Hendricks going down a lap. And so, he's going to go around here. That is Robert Nash, and he will go in front of them. So, if the strategy does not work out for Callisto and Dowd, it will be Talon Smith leading them away. Nash trying to make something happen to the outside, but just does not have the speed.
Could Talon Smith drive away from these guys? He's got so much better right side tires right now.
It's possible, but I think you stay with them. Stay in front of them, stay controlling their draft, because the harder he tries to run, if he tries to get away from them, the more tire that he will use. But if he runs just in front of them, just enough to stay in front, he saves those tires even more and can control and have more grip for even longer. We cross over, 3 laps to go, and look at this. Callisto and Dowd are still out, all in front of Pataska and Smith by 13 seconds.
They'll come around to make it 3 laps to go this next time by the flag stand.
I like where Dowd's sitting, because now their drafting partners have pulled away. Tom Abromaitis had to pull in for his service, and so that has left Callisto out front, using up more fuel than Dowd. So I like where Nathan Dowd is sitting at the moment. Now we cross over 3 laps to go.
So 3 laps to go here at Daytona. We don't know yet what's going to happen between these two. Can they save enough fuel to go to the end? They can use some of those 12 seconds. They can lift a little more. They can hemorrhage about 3 seconds a lap and still be okay.
They're doing it right now. Lost 2 seconds here through this lap. And again, I love where Nathan Dowd is sitting. He's able to save a little bit more fuel. Shuts it off here into the corner still. Drifts back here from Callisto. And so it's a race within the race.
2 laps to go here at Daytona in the Intimidator. And there we go. Callisto is going to let Dowd go by. It's going to be a team game trying to get both cars to the end here.
That's a great move. I love to see them work together. At least they're trying to work together. Here, Callisto will move into line. And again, I told you I love this call. There's still 2 more laps for them to have to make it. Meanwhile, the battle for third is on between Pataska and Talon Smith. Talon Smith put an excellent strategy to stay out longer, get fresher tires later, and have more grip. But the pack racing here is overcoming him. Robert Nash trying to make it 3 wide on the bottom.
3 wide into turn number 3. That rarely works out in these cars. This time it does. White flag is in the air, brought to you by Whiplash Simcams. Dowd and Callisto have 1 lap to go and an 8-second gap they can use.
The question is, do they have enough fuel, or will they run out somewhere on this lap? If it happens, it'll be the battle between here, Pataska and Talon Smith battling it out for the win, but right now it's the battle for third. Dowd currently leads in front of Callisto. Can they get it? Less than half a mile.
All they have to do is make it back around to the stripe. Pataska, Smith, and everybody else 3 wide again. This time into turn number 3. Here we go, off the final corner. Nathan Dowd can coast from here, because Nathan Dowd is going to stay on top of the points and win the Intimidator at Daytona. Callisto with just enough behind him, and to the line, you see the race. Pataska wins it for third. There's beating and banging across the stripe. In all of its 1987 glory, this race provides absolute cinema to the end.
Wow. Look, I'm not going to say that I called it, but I love the strategy from the beginning from Dowd and Callisto to stay out. They ran it, and look, I think a lot more drivers could have tried to do that because you saw it. It was not, I won't say easy, but they made it look easy, and Nathan Dowd comes out on top. They play the teammate game. Callisto just did not have quite as much fuel. Dowd goes out in front to try to help his teammate save fuel. He stays out front because Callisto is not able to try to make a move, and they finish 1-2.
And I don't think he's got enough fuel to do a burnout. I think he had just enough to coast back.
Yep.
That's the way you do it. What a race. Lionel Callisto coasting down the backstretch, out of fuel. Dallas Pataska takes third. And we've got to see that replay of that final lap between that battle for third.
It was a huge battle between Pataska and Smith. And I think the lap car, the 52, I think played a game, played a factor there in that battle for third. And I think that's why we saw the contact after the line between here, the 52 and Talon Smith, because I think this 52 got in the way because he was not racing for position between these leaders. So I think that's why Talon Smith was upset, because just a moment ago you saw him side by side with the 24 Pataska. When that 52 made it 3 wide, it compromised Smith.
Yeah, car 52, I'm looking for him, is Kevin Hill, 1 lap down. So he was not in this.
Yeah, and this is why you see that contact. That is an upset Talon Smith, because that cost him a podium.
And I don't blame him.
I don't either.
You're a lapped car. I think you've got to adhere to the fact that you are not battling these guys for position. Let them fight it out themselves.
And he's forcing it 3 wide.
Yeah, he didn't gain anything from this. There were some lapped cars at the back end of the group, but he didn't gain anything from making it 3 wide. I question that big time, but this is a replay of that final lap one more time. You see, this is the battle down the backstretch for third place.
Yeah, and this is where that position gets compromised. Pataska just able to run so much speed here, but then right when Talon Smith gets left out all alone, he loses so much speed with no drafting partner. And you see, I think that was Brayton going around in the back, big crash in the back behind them. Then the 52 almost turns Pataska.
What a job by Dallas Pataska, fishtailing that car across the stripe.
It was impressive.
We'll get one more look at what just happened back there with the...
I think it was the 11, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
It was Brenton Foster.
You're right. He finishes 1 lap down in the end. But I think he was racing with these guys for position. Let's ride on board with him. You see the 46 of Northway here. He was 2nd and 4th in his other results, 8th here today.
Good
Still
finish.
a solid round of finishes for Northway. I think that's the best of any drivers that did the 3 races.
I'd have to agree. You see a bit of, this is that checkup from that 52 going 3 wide. It checked up this field.
Oh, it was Northway that got into the 11.
Yep, dives to the inside, compromises the 11 there. Oh, yeah. Golly. Oh, and
Challoner.
then collect Challoner. That's why, oh my goodness.
Christian Challoner had a great finish in the making until that happened.
Yeah, I think it only cost him 1 spot. I think he only lost a spot to Abramitis. But again, every spot is key here for these drivers, because currently Challoner sits 12th, and as the points would run right now, quote unquote, 4th. So 1 spot, those amount of points could cost you in the end.
Let's take a look at your unofficial race results. Nathan Dowd with the race win over Sector 5 teammate Lionel Callisto. Dallas Pataska finishes 3rd. Talon Smith there in 4th. Ryan Steele 5th. What a finish for Talon Smith and Ryan Steele. They stay out the longest of that big lead group, and they make those tires work for them. 4th and 5th. That's very nice between those two. Christian Abate there in 6th. Robert Nash in 7th, and Robert Northway. Tom Abramitis and Christian Challoner able to manage a top 10 when it's all said and done, even with that damage.
Yeah, Kyle Hendricks fled early but did not have the day. He said his car was just too tight, and and was happy with the race from earlier. He finishes 11th. Then it was Lynn Kinchlow finishing there in 12th. They ran together all day long, but after his incident, he was also not able to recover. 13th and 14th was that 52 of Kevin Hill that played away near the end between the battle for the podium. Then 14th was Ray Partridge. 15th and 16th was that 19 of Nick Kuhn. And then the 777 of Ross Banfield. 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th all runs through Brian Barnes, Austin O'Neill, Jason Willott, and Joey Haynes.
Finishing 21st is Brenton Foster in that 11 car that we saw at the end. Chris Willard there in 22nd. Jason Latridge, Timothy Klaus, and Greg McEnany, your top 25. These guys all had early exits or, or ran laps down. I'm out of breath at this point. Not breath, but out of voice. Oh man, Drew Lalonde there at 26th. James Jones 27th. My throat is giving out on me. Can you finish the results for me, please?
Oh, yes, I can. Let's see. I'm going to start back from the beginning. Brenton Foster there in the 21st position. 22nd was Chris Willard. 23rd and 24th was Jason Lotridge and Timothy Klaus. 25th and 26th, Greg McKinney and Drew Lalonde. 27th, 28th was James Jones and Austin Peterson. 29th and 30th was Joseph Homan, Bryce Roberts. Then your last four on the field tonight was Brian McGreevy, Vincent LaHerbier, Ozzie Milwane, and William Fletcher, all coming in with a rough end to the night.
Well, I got myself a drink. Hopefully my voice lasts the interviews here with Nathan Dowd and company. Excuse me, I haven't had this problem in a while. But a long race will do it to you. 3 hours of broadcasting for sure, but 3 hours of racing comes down to the end for Nathan Dowd, and the very last bit of fuel. My voice is failing me, Nathan, but what the heck? How did you manage all of that?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. We noticed during the early green flag, we had like one cycle of green flag stops that we were about a lap better than everyone else for some reason. We weren't really trying to do that at that point, but it was surprising to us. And then it just so happened that last restart that we did get, and we looked at the fuel number, and it was pretty much right on the line if we were able to save like we had been in the pack, which we knew would be hard because we'd be by ourselves there for a bit. But just able to make it work there. A little bit of clutch saving those last like 5 or so laps, and and Lionel helping me out, pushing me at the end there. Got her done.
Walk us through fuel saving in these cars. My voice is cutting out, but walk us through exactly how you managed to save all of those laps.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if there was a setup thing. We had basically full spoiler and everything. I think we were like really trimmed out. It was just, I guess, lifting a little bit more than everybody else while we were in the pack. We were getting help there that last run with some lap cars helping to push us a little bit. I think that kind of pushed us over the edge for that last run. And then those last like 5 or so laps, we were starting to do a little hold the clutch in, enter in the corners just to keep momentum and get a little extra full lift off, and it just gave us just enough. It sounds like we got pretty lucky there with that incident there that they had. I went back and looked at the replay. I don't know how we didn't get a yellow there, but that saved us. So we'll take it.
It saves you guys for sure, and it gives you a second straight win to open this season. How big of an advantage is this to you to have this going into Road America in a month?
Wow, it's huge. I had honestly not really used to winning very much, to be honest. It's I get a lot of decent finishes, a lot of top fives. I'm pretty good at being fairly consistent that way, but never really winning a whole lot. So I mean, this is pretty surprising to me to have this start to the year. So, but at this point, we got momentum. We'll keep it going as long as we can.
What's it gonna take to get teammate Lionel in here for an interview?
He had to run, actually, so I don't think he's going to get in.
Oh,
but he told me to speak for him, basically ditto what I said. But yeah, we were talking the whole time, watching the fuel number each lap. adjusting as best we could how much we could live without really losing the draft to the guys around us, but just communicating that way. And we did a little swap at the end. I felt like he was about half a gallon worse than me, so we were pretty sure he wasn't going to make it, so we swapped there with about 2 laps to go so he could push me to make sure that at least one of us would make it. So I feel a little bad because I think he actually ended up rolling across in second anyways, so really he probably should have won, to be honest. But hey, we got the team 1-2, so that's pretty good.
A team 1-2, and since we don't have Lionel here to talk to us, Scott, any questions here for Nathan Dowd?
Yeah, Nathan, I mean, I'm not going to take any sort of credit or anything, but Andrew, we were talking about when it came down to it, we were we were talking about there is a possibility to save fuel here to the end, and we really thought a lot more of the field would try it. We continue to see drivers come into the pit lane about lap 154, 155, and we were surprised to see as many takers. And when you and Lionel decided to stay out, I loved the call because it was gutsy. Y'all were both running. You were running around the top 10. Lionel just around you. You were both right around that area, and so it would have been quote-unquote smart and safe to say, I'm going to get a top 10 day, most likely. But y'all made a gutsy call, and I loved it because you pitted there on lap, 159? And so you had to, or 158, you had to save about 2 laps of fuel. And I loved the strategy. Everything seemed to work out for y'all, and I loved the call at the end of the day. I know that's not really a question, but, I mean, take me through taking that decision. I know Andrew just talked a little bit about it, but when did you realize, hey, this is a possibility for us?
Yeah, that last restart we had, I just noticed the fuel number was basically right on the edge of making it in one more stop. So it was telling me I needed just over 22 gallons refuel at the rate that we were running in the middle of that pack there. So if we could just do that and then do a little extra save at the end while we're on our own, that it was possible. And yeah, we're just able to hit that number there, running that pack, not losing the draft. So honestly, that wasn't too different than what we were doing the rest of the race. Then once we kind of got on our own, we had to be a little more careful, and because you don't have as much draft help pulling you around. But yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was going to work because I knew we'd have to go quite a bit slower than those guys. I was pretty confident we could make it. But I wasn't really sure how the timing would work out with those guys pitting because I knew we were going to have to run a few seconds a lap slower there for at least a few laps. And so, yeah, I think if we had maybe one more lap there, they probably would have got us. So, yeah, it was a risk, but I guess these kinds of races, that's our best chance to win. So,
yeah, I mean, it puts you 2 wins, and you look forward to Road America in the GT3 cars. You got to win. When we did things at the Daytona Road Course, the IMSA class, what do you look forward to, and how do you prepare for that race at Road America?
Yeah, I mean, Road America's a fun track. I honestly kind of struggled there. I race there almost every time the official series go there. I like the track a lot. It's just one I'm not super fast at, but I mean, yeah, we'll definitely prepare. I am pretty comfortable in the GT3s. I run those with the team and special events quite often. Just not really the fastest in them, but yeah, we'll give it our best chance, our best shot, and see how things shake out.
Well, back to you, Andrew.
Well, Nathan, good to talk to you when it's all said and done. Congratulations on the win. Hopefully we're talking again soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you, guys.
Nathan Dowd with the race win this evening, and that will take us through driver interviews as Lionel and Dallas were not able to make it. But good to talk to Nathan Dowd, tonight's race winner, when it's all said and done. What a day for him. It all came down to that fuel strategy, and what a race. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think we had the best race of the weekend. I think the coolest finish still goes to that .001 second finish in the European race. I gotta give it to him. But the best race overall, I think, with our few cautions, only four cautions this evening.
That's impressive. In 200 laps with these cars as on edge as they are, really impressive. I think once we got through, we had 3 cautions in the first 100, only 1 in the last 100.
Really impressive stuff. This entire field needs to pat themselves on their backs. But that will do it for us this evening from the World Center of Racing. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go through our post-race stuff. First up, where we're headed next, the Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park on Tuesday. That is for the BRB Racing League Butt Kicker Cup Series on February the 18th. Make sure to tune in there. They are coming up on their chase, meaning their playoffs are coming up soon. Excuse me, the playoffs are now for the Simrat Market Series on Wednesdays. This will be their second race of the playoffs here on Wednesday. Make sure to tune in for Miami on February 19th, and then a mystery race for the Sarah Super Series on Thursday. I apparently talked too much. Scott, take it away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could have taken it all for you here. We got Sarah Series, and it's going to be awesome. The 5th mystery race of the season. That'll be on Thursday, February 20th. Do not miss it. I love getting to see what Andrew and Zach get to do with the Sarah Series, and you can follow it all with our updates and everything going on here at Pit Stop TV on our website, pitstoptv.com, all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and X. You'll catch all the action of what is up and coming here for us at Pit Stop TV. And I think we had a great race with the major series tonight. Like you said, Andrew, I mean, my thoughts on the night, I think we had an excellent race with so many different strategies playing out, an excellently clean race, and I think just great drivers all throughout the field.
I'm not sure who gets my lucky break of the day. But I think, you know what? It could be Dowd and Callisto getting the caution when they needed it to make it on fuel.
And I think that's one we didn't even think about. I would say that's it.
There you go. Maybe that's today's lucky break of the day. Let us know in the YouTube chat here if you're still watching who exactly gets your lucky break of the day, brought to you by Lucky Performance. But I can tell you who won driver of the day, and it's a two-way vote. Dallas Pataska and Talon Smith both will split the honors. Excuse me. I think Talon Smith was technically ahead until the very end. Pataska got one more vote to even it out, but they will each be today's driver of the day. And I think that's fitting. They each very much deserve it, each for somewhat different reasons. And I think that's a good nod to each of those two drivers. Also want to give a thank you to the Majors Garage for being a partner for this series. Of course, it's the Majors series. The Majors Garage helps out. And I want to give a nod as well to our partners here with Pit Stop TV, Whiplash SimCams, ATVO, CC's Business, Cody Williams Design, Lucky Performance, and the North American Racing League, and all making it possible here behind the scenes. Scott, any final words?
I mean, look, I'm just so glad that we got to do this. You know, we talked about the major series and how much I was excited about it. Then when you got to pull me on for the Daytona 2.4, I hope I can be available to you for other races. But what a strategy play it was for Nathan Dowd and Lionel Callisto, because they absolutely played it to their benefactor tonight. And I think we will continue to see great racing from the major series throughout this year.
Next up, it's GT World Challenge Racing at Road America. The GT3 class will be in action on March 16th. Make sure to tune in for that one. Otherwise, that's it for this evening. We'll catch you all next time here at Pit Stop TV. Make sure to tune in again soon, hopefully for the BRB Racing League on Tuesday at IRP. Otherwise, have a great night. We'll see you next time.